something to be said. And by the way, for those of you that are on the stream, now you're going to get the side profile view of Rob Brown. But I think we should have sound now. Y'all let me know if we have sound. I'm going to assume we have sound now, but we'll find out. Look, you can see the stream. You're right over there. All right. So there does not seem to be any names attached to this. That does not mean it's not happening. That doesn't mean it's not a reality. What I'm saying is there's not been anything that jumps off the page at me as, yeah, this is a reality. This is happening. This is something that's coming down. Like, I don't have any of that. All I have is I have spoken to some friends of mine that cover down in the Florida Panhandle, that cover Florida State football. And what I've gotten is a whole lot of, yeah, we don't really know. But does it make sense? Does this whole story make sense? Does Florida State and Clemson to the Big Ten make any sort of sense at all? And the answer for me is like a solid maybe at best, right? A solid maybe. Because we all know the SEC and the Big Ten are going to pay more money. You know what? I know what we know. Everybody knows it. The SEC and the Big Ten will pay more money. However, you got to be invited to the party to benefit from the party, right? You can't get the head cheerleader's name at the party if you don't catch the invite in the first place. And this is where this story gets very, to me, compelling. The story gets compelling to me because they're not catching an invite right now. The Big 12 has said over and over, we're open for business. The Big 12 has said repeatedly, we got room, and we're willing to make more deals. The SEC and the Big 10 are not right now. And it makes sense that they're not, because there is still the potential for, quite literally, there is still the potential for, we are talking down the line, years of litigation coming down the pipe for the ACC, for Clemson, for Florida State. Years of litigation coming down the pipe. And if that ends up being the case, you've got to think that if you're the SEC, you've got to think that if you are the two schools, you know you can't go anywhere right now. And you've got to think if you're one of those two conferences, the Big Ten or the SEC, you can't pull the trigger right now, because the last thing you need is to give the invite FSU and Clemson to commit now, and then they get locked up with a couple $100 million worth of debt. And so your question at that point is, are the SEC and the Big Ten willing to pitch in on that debt? Are Florida State and Clemson basically bleeped on that debt? How's that whole situation work out? And the answer right now is no clue. I got no clue at all how this works out. And because I got no clue on if that works out, I'm not saying that I'm an attorney, because I'm not, nor did I stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. I am no expert in the realm of litigation. But what I can say is, even though they've got mucho dinero, even though that's got all of the dollar bills y'all wrapped up, the SEC and the Big Ten, they are not anywhere near a landscape where they are going to commit tens of, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to a couple of schools that, as of this moment in time, as of right now, aren't bringing anything back to the table. Not that they won't, because they obviously will. Clemson and Florida State are both flag banner carrying type programs. But if these two schools were to join, and after they join, they find themselves in a spot where the ACC wins some sort of litigation, or they lose some sort of litigation, or whatever comes out of it, then they can't move. Those two conferences. The point of all of this is, even if the Big 12 is right now looking at making something happen, even if the Big 12 is right now interested in opening the door for these two schools, I don't think that they can. I don't think they can, because if the SEC and the Big 10 don't have win that lawsuit for them money, then I know the Big 12 does it. Even if the Big 12 is going to be able to pay twice as much as the ACC, as was the tagline to this story last week, even if they're able to pay Florida State and Clemson twice as much as the ACC does if those two schools were to stay in the Atlantic Coast Conference, when it comes down to it, they ain't got cover me up right now money, bro. They don't have that, and they're not going to get that. So as long as these lawsuits are taking place, one in Tallahassee, one in Pickens County, two in Mecklenburg County, one from Florida State against the ACC, one from Clemson against the ACC, and one from the ACC against each of those two schools, as long as those are in the courts, as long as those are getting flipped around, this thing ain't going nowhere. All right, we got to run to a break. We're back after this. Rob Brown sitting in solo for you today. Why? Because I love you and care. Back after this on The Rob Brown Show. Miss April, thank you for helping me through that there. I got to figure out how to do all these things.
You and I were doing the show. It was just you and me in here, and I told you to, like, when you're up, take it off. I'll be fine. I could have helped you. I would have helped you out. I just would have wanted a percentage of the winnings. That's all. Bet MGM tonight.
Live sports betting updates as they happen. Weeknights at 7
on the Fan Upstate.
News Talk 98.9 WORD Weather Center. Here's the Carolinas' most trusted forecast on the Fan Upstate. For today, most sunny to partly cloudy skies, a chance for a late day shower or storm with highs up to 97. For tonight, any storms ending early, mid-70s. Some late day storms Tuesday, mid-90s. I'm meteorologist Michael Carroll on the Fan Upstate. Right now it's 79.
This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Granger's supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call quickgranger.com or just stop by. Granger, for the one.
All right, guys, give me 15 seconds. I'm going to be right back. Don't go anywhere. All right, this is gonna be an adventure today, y'all.
Experience the thrill of the Chumba life at ChumbaCasino.com. It's free to play. Play for fun and no purchases necessary. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions.
Your guide to the gridiron, the maestro of the matchups, and the keeper of all things cool in the sports world. This is the Rob Brown Show.
Oh, yeah. Lonzo's here, too.
This is the Fan Upstate.
The Rob Brown Show is back on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate. I think I've got this whole thing figured out. I think I figured out how to do a radio here, people. All right, we got the stream up live and running now. Can't watch it on Twitter anymore, at least not yet. We're gonna work on getting that corrected at some point. I'm hoping that we do, but unfortunately, right now, can't watch on X. All right, or Twitter or whatever else you want to call it. Can't watch there. If you want to watch the stream, you do still have options. Facebook.com/thefanupstate. Twitter is down, so you can go to YouTube and watch. Just search and subscribe to the Fan Upstate. You can go to Facebook and search and subscribe to The Rob Brown Show, which is the Facebook page for this show in particular. Or you can go to Twitch and find The Rob Brown Show. So Facebook.com/The Fan Upstate. Facebook.com/The Rob Brown Show. YouTube, search The Fan Upstate. YouTube, search The Rob Brown Show. Or on Twitch, search and subscribe to The Rob Brown Show. We'd love to have you wherever it is that you want to subscribe, wherever it is that you want to watch. Jump on board and be a part of our live stream this AM. And by the way, every AM, we are live all 4 hours every single day of the week. So we're talking about this Big 12 thing. By the way, as an FYI, I have reached out to and talked to David Hood. David Hood is the senior Clemson writer for TigerNet.com. And we will be getting David on the show. We are trying to coordinate a time for later on this morning. But if we can't get him on this morning, then we'll get him on tomorrow. But are working on coordinating with David Hood about scheduling a time to talk. He is covering this Big 12 rumor that's been going around about Clemson and FSU having conversations with them about joining that conference. We're going to keep that conversation going because I do think it is a relatively interesting discussion to have. If you missed it last week, nuts and bolts version of the conversation is this. The Big 12 does not have any intention to invite Clemson or Florida State to their conference. The rumor going around right now is that because those schools lack AAU, American Association of Universities, accreditation, that those schools will not catch the invite from the conference because they want that accreditation. They want to be taken seriously as an academic conference. Fair or unfair, I'll let you decide. Silly or not silly, I'll let you decide. To me, respectfully, kind of silly. Kind of silly, all right? I mean, as somebody who values academic excellence, as somebody who values academic integrity, I think it's fine. But is anybody going to look at the conference if Florida State and Clemson get in there? By the way, a pair of very respected academic institutions. Is anybody going to look at them and go, that's silly, bro? What a silly, silly move. Nah, I don't think so. I don't think anybody cares that much. I don't think they care that much. TBH. So, with all of that being said, the rumor then becomes that the Southeastern Conference, and this one I do believe, that the Southeastern Conference basically looks at this moment and goes, there's really no reason to engage in any sort of serious conversations with these two schools, Florida State or Clemson. There's no reason to engage in those conversations because we're not going to pay for them to get out. Like, they can navigate getting out of the Atlantic Coast Conference. They can navigate getting out of the ACC. And if they figure out how, then we'll look at inviting them. But it's not exactly a well-guarded secret right now that there are schools in both conferences that don't really have an interest in Florida State and or Clemson being allowed into the conference. South Carolina has no interest in Clemson being involved. Florida has no interest in Florida State being involved. Needless to say, Miami along with them. Although right now, because of the lawsuits, and I think justifiably so, the attention's dialed in on Clemson and Florida State, which makes sense. So you are right now looking at a pair of schools in Clemson and Florida State who are locked into their conferences, their conference. They are locked in right now with their conference because there are potentially years of litigation involved. And litigation that they could very much lose and effectively get legally locked into the ACC for another dozen years, 12 more years. There is a possibility that when Florida State and Clemson are able to leave the ACC, provided the ACC does not shut down operations between here and there, and if they are able to lock Florida State, Clemson, Miami, North Carolina in, I don't think that they will. But if they don't shut down operations, then you end up in a spot where Rob Brown's going to be like north of 50 when these two schools are able to get out of that conference. That is also, and this is why I have said for a very long time, this story is mucho importante. Even if you are dialed in as just a fan of one or the other, this story is massively important. And the story is massively important if you're a Clemson fan, right? When Florida State filed the lawsuit, I talked about it a bunch on this very show in this very station. I talked about it a bunch, and I got a lot of folks from Clemson that went, Rob, why do I care? Why are you taking up our precious airwaves with a bunch of conversation about a Florida State University-driven lawsuit? And I told you at the time, because the future of Clemson football is wrapped up in this lawsuit. Wouldn't you know it? Here we are, a year and some change later, and Clemson's got the same lawsuit going down. And if Florida State and Clemson lose these lawsuits, which there's no saying they will or they will not, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, nor did I stay in a Holiday Inn Express last night, as the old commercial goes. I don't know if they do or don't. But if they don't, if they lose these lawsuits, if these lawsuits in Tallahassee, Pickens County, or Mecklenburg County, North Carolina, if these lawsuits go the direction of the conference, you're looking at 12 more years before you can get out. And here's why it's important. Because that is 12 years that South Carolina is going to be making double and a half, 3 times the money to put into their budget that Clemson does. That is 12 years that Florida is going to make double and above, maybe 3 times the money that Florida State makes to put into their budget. And as my old man used to tell me all the time, Rob Brown, I'm so proud of you. You're such a loving son. You're such an incredible son. You're everything I hoped that you would turn out to be. And also, he said, aside from that, if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. If you are not actively doing something to get better, you are getting worse because somebody somewhere else is doing that thing to get better that you're not doing right now. And so if you're a Clemson or you're Florida State and you're sitting here looking at a situation where your rival schools are making double and a half, if not 3 times the money that you are making for any number of years while you're locked up in litigation, your life's getting harder. Your life's getting tougher. And that's kind of where this is right now. So while the story is there's not much more that's new to the story, still a very big story. So you had Greg Swaim put out some comments from one of multiple media days last week that said, hey, look, the Big 12's making a push. The Big 12's making a run. They want Clemson. They want Florida State, and they're willing to play this game now. And basically what you have now is a situation where, and I've warned you of these things in the past. This is one of those rub the head in frustration, scratch the beard in frustration moments. It really is. Be very careful. Be very careful, because we live in a world where interactions matter more than anything. It stinks. As somebody who, and I'll make it about me because that's what I do. As somebody who is doing their darndest to get big by just talking about sports in a way that a normal person talks about sports. Maybe that's my fault. Maybe that's my problem. But as somebody who's trying to take this thing to the next level by talking about sports in the way that normal people talk about sports, somebody who's trying to take this thing to the next level, not by offering up hot takes, not by making stuff up. I have warned you many, many times, when stuff like this starts making the rounds, take it not with a grain of salt, take it with a whole shaker. I'm not saying that what Greg Swaim is saying is incorrect. What I'm saying is, and how many times have you heard me say this? The burden of proof is on the person making the claim. And you can not believe a thing while also not believing the thing is false. I'm not saying what Greg Swaim is saying is wrong or that it's incorrect. What I'm saying is, when he comes to the table and he says #sources, it's kind of hard for me to jump on board with that. It's kind of hard for me to go, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, no, I believe him. It's not that I disbelieve him. It's that I don't believe him. It's not that I'm saying he's lying or he's wrong. I'm saying I don't have any reason to believe what he's saying is true, right? Like if your friend comes to you and says, I won the Powerball lottery this weekend. Is that a thing that is possible? Yeah. Is it realistic? Nah. Should you believe him? I mean, not really, right? Like that's the ugly truth. So I don't know. With all those things being said, is this story important? Yes. Is it big? Yes. Would it be a foundational shakeup of college football? Yes. But also, I think there's so many lawyers standing between an actual decision, invitation, and move that it's too early to start talking about this like it's gospel. Back after this. Oh, man, I pushed the button early. Oh, well. What are you going to do? All right, guys. I'm going to be going to break a little bit more often than normal today since I'm solo and I actually have to do production stuff during the break. Stay right there. I'll be right back. All right, dudes and dudettes, we're back. Interesting morning this morning. If you didn't hear me say it on the radio earlier, they have removed our ability to stream to Twitter. And Twitter is where the majority of our viewers on our stream come from. So we are going to be leaning on you guys, if you don't mind, to please share us around your social media and help us grow the show a little bit.
Even some sweet treats to cap it off. VIP, general admission, and designated driver tickets are on sale now. Your participation directly supports Carolina Adaptive Golf, benefiting veterans and individuals overcoming physical or mental trauma. The Bourbon and Bacon Fest, Friday, September 27th. Secure your tickets now by texting BACON to 72341 or visit bourbonandbaconfest.com. That's bourbonandbaconfest.com. Text and data rates may apply.
You expect your home to protect everything you love, but you don't expect the ways water is breaking down your foundation and damaging your home. Cracks in walls and uneven floors are just a few signs your foundation is compromised. But there's one way to get answers to all your concerns. A free home inspection from Mount Valley Foundation Services. We put water back in its place. Get your free inspection at fixmyfoundation.com.
Hey, this is Diesel, and this is Cole with Wire to Wire, and we'll be live this Wednesday from 3 to 7 at Ingles Markets at 410 Pelzer Highway in Easley. Stop by and say hi. We will also be giving away a $25 Ingles gift card.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance engineer, he hears things differently. To the untrained ear, everything on his shop floor might sound fine, but he can hear gears grinding or belts slipping. So he steps in to fix the problem at hand before it gets out of hand. And he knows Granger's got the right product he needs to get the job done, which is music to his ears. Call, click Granger.com, or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
Tired of hearing scary radio ads about the IRS? Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000 or $500,000, we have a solution. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS with zero risk to you. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with a BBB. End your tax nightmare today by visiting TRA.com or call 800-583-6580. That's 800-583-6580.
Look at your cup holder. It's empty. And you're feeling thirsty. Head to a nearby convenience store and fill it with a Pepsi Zero Sugar, Mountain Dew, or Starry. Grab a delicious, refreshing Pepsi for the road.
When life spells heartburn, how do you spell relief? ROLAIDS.
What about when life spells spicy wings?
It's still ROLAIDS. Rolay, it's powerful heartburn relief. Use as directed, keep out of reach of children.
Always streaming wherever you are on the Odyssey app. Fan up to your favorite.
The Rob Brown Show on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate, the foremost electrifying hours in sports talk entertainment that you will find anywhere, my good people. Lots to get to, lots to talk about on the show this morning. Did you see this this chaos that took place last night ahead of the Copa America final that took place down in Miami, Florida? If you missed it, and I'm sure like 7 of you did, if you missed it, before the match started, which was supposed to begin at 8 p.m., they had to push the start of the match back over an hour and 15 minutes. Because long story short, fans started bull rushing the gate. Fans started bull rushing the gate that didn't have tickets. Fans that didn't have tickets started bull rushing the gate and effectively overwhelmed the security on hand at the stadium. And I saw a lot of people losing their minds over that on social media last night. There are a lot of moving parts, I think, to this conversation. One of the big ones was, is this something that could cause a problem in 2 years when the United States hosts the World Cup? And the answer is yeah. No, of course it could. How could you think it doesn't, right? How could this not be a problem? Listen, this is an NFL stadium. This is supposed to be a big thing. Security is supposed to be something that I'd like to think we can all take for granted at sports events like what we saw last night. But there's a lot more to it than stadium security was bad, which it was. It was. Number one, this event, though it was co-hosted by FIFA, was run primarily by CONMEBOL. CONMEBOL is the South American CONCACAF, right? CONMEBOL is all of the teams in South America, their organization as a whole. And CONMEBOL, while FIFA and the individual stadiums were the ones that were set up to operate this thing, CONMEBOL is the one that was in charge of making sure that everything was on the up and up. And they failed miserably at that. They failed miserably at that. And that is a problem. But I would also go one step further to make the argument that these stadiums, that U.S. soccer, and this is something that got said to me last night by, I think, friend of the show, Joey B, said this to me last night. I was texting back and forth with him about this event. It's almost like U.S. soccer and the folks that run CONCACAF have never watched a soccer event outside of CONCACAF and MLS, because you got to know this is coming. You got to know that this is a reality. You've got to know that this is a possibility. And while, let's be very clear, at the end of the day, the behavior of the fans is on the fans. The way that the fans acted last night was beyond inappropriate. If you don't have a ticket to the game, you don't get into the game. We will be I'm going to go full boomer on you here for a minute. We will be a much better society globally the day that people realize because I want to isn't a good reason to do a thing. I mean, there are some things that because I want to can play, but there's a lot more that it doesn't, right? Part of the reason that Rob Brown has had to go way down the rabbit hole of dropping the LBs is because of the number of times that I saw that third or fourth piece of chocolate cake and ate it because I want to. That's not good. That's not how you can't operate that way. So these fans last night that did what they did, these fans last night that made it about them, these fans last night that decided that they were going to go all out and acting the way that they acted to get into the stadium. There were people, if you missed it, there were people last night that were like crawling into the stadium through air conditioning vents, like it was a freaking, I don't know, Mission Impossible movie. That's a problem, man. You can't have that. That can't be allowed to happen. And so as I watched this thing play out, I genuinely thought to myself, like, I really, really hope, I genuinely hope that we've learned a lesson here. I genuinely hope that we're going to have this thing straightened out. I genuinely hope that we can do better. Because what I saw last night was a travesty. It was unacceptable. It was not okay. And the fact that it was allowed to take place the way that it took place, it made us all look bad, man. It made us all look bad. We have got an event coming up in 2 years that the entire world is going to descend upon us for. An event coming up in 2 years that is going to put us on display. And while I have no doubt that a large percentage of what we saw last night was absolutely perpetrated by Colombian fans who traveled here from South America, by Argentinian fans who traveled here from South America, a lot of it also had to do with people who live here, who showed up to see Leo Messi play, who were, Colombian immigrants or Colombian immigrants' descendants who wanted to see their team play in a game that they certainly were not expected to be in, right? It was a sad, sad state of affairs. And you just can't be allowed to go down that way. So we'll keep an eye on that because there are, I think, a lot of lessons to be learned from it, because there are, I think, a lot of discussions that need to be had, because there are, I think, a lot of course corrections that need to be made before the World Cup. I've already said, the World Cup's an interesting spot for me right now, because I have been for years now, since the announcement that we would be hosting this event, for years now, have been planning on getting to as many World Cup matches as I possibly can. The 2026 World Cup sites, there are a handful within easy travel distance for me. A handful within easy travel distance. Atlanta's got him. Boston's got him. Miami's got him. New York has him. Philly's got him. I can get to all those cities for a weekend trip, no problem. And then, depending on what the U.S. schedule looks like, my understanding is that the U.S. will play at least one, maybe two group stage games in Los Angeles. I'll hop on a plane. That's been the plan from the beginning, from the moment they announced it. But we got this Greg Berhalter thing. We'll talk a little bit about this later in the show. We got this Greg Berhalter thing. We're looking for a new manager, and as of right now, it's not going great out of the gate. I didn't expect it to, so that we're clear. I didn't expect it to, but it's not going great. So I'm already up in the air. I'm willing to travel across the country to go watch my country play footy. I'm not willing to do it if I know the team's going to suck, right? I'm not willing to do it if I know the team's going to be 2 and done, 3 and done in the group stage. I'm also not willing to do it if me and my fiance are going to get trampled at the entrance to a stadium because they can't freaking figure out security, right? I'm also not going to do it if I think that she and I are going to pay $2,000 for a ticket only to not be let into the stadium, as a number of people with tickets weren't last night, because security let so many people in without them that they basically turned people with tickets away and said, sorry, this sucks, but there's nothing we can do. It's kind of embarrassing, to be quite honest with you. Wait, I'm not supposed to play that. I'm not supposed to play that because before I play that, I got to do a sports flash. Let me hang on. See, now you guys get to learn how real production works. I got to find the where's my sports flash intro? There it is. We're going to put that right there. And then we're going to say it's time for a sports flash. Speaking of Copa America, Argentina will add another trophy to the cabinet after an extra time winner from Lautaro Martinez, who subbed on for an injured Leo Messi earlier in the contest. Martinez found a through ball from Giovanni Lo Celso and sent it over the head of Colombian keeper Camilo Vargas for the win. Messi's injury came in the 64th injury and was non-contact, but forced him to the bench. Spain are the champions of Europe after defeating England 2-1 in the Euro Cup final. Nico Williams scored a go-ahead goal early in the contest, but Chelsea star Cole Palmer equalized for England in the 86th minute. Mikel Oyarzabal knocked in the winner to lift the trophy. The Atlanta Braves entered the All-Star break on a high, taking out 2 of 3 on the road at the San Diego Padres. Final contest, a 6-3 win. That saw the All-Star Chris Sale pick up his 13th win of the season, going 5 innings and giving up 4 hits and 1 run, while K'ing 4. Travis d'Arnaud homered twice in the 6th and 8th innings, racking up 4 RBIs in the win. What a fight we're having today, guys. What a fight we're having today. I appreciate y'all sticking with me. Sit tight. I will be right back in just a moment. Guys, we are back. Thanks for hanging in there, those of y'all that did. Much appreciated.
You can go farther and save on full synthetic with our oil change special. Right now, you can get 5 quarts of STP full synthetic oil with an STP extended life oil filter for just $29.99. Get the parts you need when you need them at AutoZone or AutoZone.com. Restrictions apply.
WIBC HD3, the official sports voice of the Upstate family. Odyssey Sports Station.
Man, check this out.
Your unofficial Rob Brown Lockdown.
Represents being real.
Yeah. Manufactured locally for the Carolinas.
This is the Rob Brown Show. Get Rob only.
The Fan Upstate.
Here we go. Hour number 2 of the Rob Brown radio program goes now. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Wonderful to be with you. Hope that you are exceptionally well. I am Rob Brown, rolling solo today, and happy to do it. Why? Because I love you. Because I care about you, about all of you, to be quite honest with you. So I show up, I slap the Play Like a Champion Today banner. I roll up into the stadium, and I play. All right? Let's have some fun. Let's get to it. Do want to, before we get any further, do want to inform you that next week, a big week on the show. Next week, we will be live at ACC Media Days in Charlotte, North Carolina. Because again, I love you and I care. Yes, I did just wink, by the way. That's if I do that, I definitely wink. You can see it on the stream, facebook.com/thefanupstate, The Fan Upstate, or The Rob Brown Show on YouTube and The Rob Brown Show on Twitch. Unfortunately, for those of you that check in with us on Twitter, Twitter has changed their streaming policy. You can no longer stream without a premium account, and we do not have one as of right now. We'll be working on that after the show. I'll let you know. Anyway, The Rob Brown Show on Facebook, The Fan Upstate on Facebook, either of those two outlets on YouTube, or The Rob Brown Show on Twitch. If you happen to have a Twitch set up, you can watch us there. So, next week on the show, we'll be live from ACC Media Days. I will be driving up to Charlotte on Sunday afternoon. I will be spending Sunday evening in Charlotte, getting the lay of the land. On Monday, I will be live Monday morning from ACC Media Days. On Tuesday morning, I'll be live from ACC Media Days. We will be off on Wednesday next week. And we will be off on Wednesday next week because your boy and Lonzo are going to see Creed on Tuesday night, and we're adults, all right? We're both going to be rehabbing on Wednesday for very different reasons. We will be rehabbing on Wednesdays, but rehabbing nonetheless. Then we'll be back at ACC Media Day on Thursday morning. That's Clemson Day. Now, Clemson, state of the university, etc., will all be after the show goes off the air. So what will happen is I will collect some data, I'll collect some sound bites, and we will probably go live for you during Dabo's presser, as well as during question and interview time on the show. We'll go live on our social media accounts, obviously, as mentioned, not Twitter. And then, we'll be back on Friday with sound, with breakdowns, with everything you need to know. So that is all coming up next week on the show. Just want to keep you abreast of the situation. Now, it is 7:00, wait for it, 4 in the morning. You have less than an hour until you've got to get to work. You have less than an hour before you've got to get clocked in and locked in at the job. You're going to take a break. You're going to talk sports. And when you do, you need to know what's going on in the world of sports. And in order to know what's going on in the world of sports, ladies and gentlemen, you need this.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar?
The almanac of the absurd?
And the encyclopedia of the extraordinary? Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworkers saying,
You hear that?
Even before they take their first bathroom break.
No.
Here we go.
welcome to the water cooler cheat sheet on the Fan Upstate.
It's the water cooler cheat sheet, the top 3 sports stories that you need to know before you get to the office and start talking sports. I won't do that the whole time, I promise. Before you get to the office and start we're going to get there. Start talking sports with your coworkers this AM. If you are going to talk sports, then you need to know what's going on. And if you need to know what's going on, don't worry, boo. I got you. Let us go ahead and jump into item number one. Glug, 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 glug. I don't have Lonzo's cool sounder. All right. Sorry. I just don't. A pair of soccer results from yesterday. We will begin with the later game after nearly an hour and 20 minutes worth of delays due to the fact that for some strange reason, security was just not ready. After fans sans tickets stampeded their way into the stadium and created a world in which security was overwhelmed and the stadium was effectively ransacked by fans that were quite literally pushing their way through barricades to get in. Argentina then had a 1-0 victory over Colombia to claim the Copa America. And I wish that that was the story. I wish that the story was soccer. I wish that the story was a match. But, number one, of course it's not. Of course, when chaos reigns supreme, as it did last night. Of course, as chaos finds its way to the top of any given metric in terms of people being entertained, it couldn't be. And then you add on to the fact that, the game was kind of boring. The game was kind of, it was fine. But even as like guy who tries to enlighten the masses about how it is to enjoy footy. That is to say, find the beauty in the play of the game, not the goals in the game. Even by that metric, it was pretty boring. You had a goal from Lautaro Martinez late in the contest that came off of a beautiful little header from Giovanni Lo Celso. The bigger story was not the goal. The bigger story was not the win. The bigger story last night was that Leo Messi had to leave the pitch because of an injury that he was dealing with. Leo Messi went down around the 64th-ish minute because my guy's leg quit working on him. He had taken a pretty gnarly hit out of bounds earlier in the contest. Taken a bit of a rolled up on ankle behind the goaltender's box in the first half. Had to get the magic spray, had to be walked off the field for a few minutes before he was eventually able to find his way back on. But around the 66th minute, I think it was 66th minute, Leo Messi went down with a non-contact injury and had to be subbed off. Nicolas Gonzalez stepped on in his stead, and it actually got the Argentinian offense rolling a little bit. So they get their goal in long stoppage time. The 112th minute was when Argentina found the only goal of the contest and able to take home the Copa America title. Leo Messi adds another piece of hardware to the cabinet, to the trophy case. With that win, he can add that now to his World Cup victory from not terribly long ago. Over in Euro, Nico Williams scored in the 47th minute, and it looked like it might be all Spain the rest of the way. On steps the Chelsea man. Cole Palmer came on in the 70th minute, and 3 minutes later, the Wonder Kid finds the back of the net. We're level at 1-1. But as I said, all the way through this tournament, at the end of the day, England's going to constantly find new, more creative, more impressive ways to break their fans' hearts. They allowed Mikel Oyarzabal to get a goal in the 86th minute. We would add just 2 minutes of stoppage time, and that was all she wrote. Spain get another piece of hardware as well. They add Euro 2024 to their list of impressive accomplishments. Let's get to item number 2. It is officially All-Star break time for Major League Baseball. The All-Star break is underway. It is time to take a few days off. It is time to go enjoy what is upcoming with the Home Run Derby tomorrow, with the All-Star game. Home Run Derby tonight, I believe. All-Star game tomorrow. But the Braves decided to have themselves a series on the way out. They go out to San Diego, and they take 2 out of 3 against the Fathers. Chris Sale, in the final contest, picks up win number 13 on the season. Not a super impressive day, but an effective day. 4 hits, 1 earned run through 5 innings, walked 2, K'd 4 on 79 pitches, and keeps his ERA at just 2.7 on the season. It was the white hot bat of Travis d'Arnaud that did the damage here for the Atlanta Braves. Had a pair of dingers in this one. One in the 6th inning, another in the 8th inning. Ended up getting 4 RBIs, did Travis d'Arnaud. He has 32 on the season. Adam Duvall got 1, moves him to 26. Matty Ice Baby Olsen got 1, gives him his 44th RBI on the year. And Travis d'Arnaud has a big day with the big stick. That moves the Braves to 1 game over 10 games over 500. They are now 53-42. My goal for Atlanta was to have the NL East be within 6 games at the break. They did not do that. It is 8.5 games worth of difference between Atlanta and Philly. But the good news is that the Phillies are taking a little bit of a tumble right now. The Phillies lost their final game of the first half of the season, 18-3 against the Oakland Athletics. The A's had 8 home runs in this contest. The Phillies dropped 2 out of the 3 against the A's. Now, is it panic time for Philly? Is the door open for Atlanta? No, relax. All right? No, relax. Here's something that baseball fans want to do. Baseball fans want to look at moments like this and try to boil a complete, what are we sitting on, 96 games played? They would have boiled 96 games down to they lost 2 out of the 3 against one of the worst teams, maybe the worst team in baseball. I got news. It's 2 out of the 3. If you're going to look at those 3 and decide that those 3 are a clear indication of where Philadelphia is, then I would go to the 3 before that when they swept the Dodgers in 3 straight, including a 10-1 win in game 1 and a 5-1 win in game number 3. The season is a long way from over. The season is nowhere close to over. And because the season is nowhere close to over, I very, very much caution Braves fans from thinking that this is it, from thinking that they have done something here. You're 8.5 games back. There's a lot left to do. Let's get to item number 3. Speaking of baseball, let's stick with baseball. The MLB draft took place last night, and there are some notes that I think are worthy of bringing up here on the air. Cleveland Guardians had the number 1 overall pick. They pick Travis Bazzana out of Oregon State, a second baseman, Aussie-born, hitting over 400 for the Beavs last year, 28 home runs, and more than twice as many walks as strikeouts last year. The 28 home runs set a school record. The overall numbers are a little better than Adley Rutschman had when he played for Oregon State and went number 1 overall back in 2019. About as good as you could ask for. Another bit of note, how about the Wake Forest Demon Deacons? 2 of the top 4 picks were Demon Deacons. You only got to drop down to number 10 to find the 3rd Deke off the board. Wake Forest having themselves an absolute day. Florida State with a pair of picks inside the top 14, both number 13 and 14. James Tibbs, right fielder, went to San Francisco. Cam Smith, a third baseman, went to the Chicago Cubs. Those are 13 and 14. Where did the Braves end up? Very interesting selection for Atlanta with the 24th overall pick last night. Cam Caminiti was the pick. He is the cousin of late NL MVP Ken Caminiti. Cam reclassified from the class of 2025. He is only 17 years old. Won't turn 18 until August. A two-way star in high school for Saguaro High School out in Arizona. He is a pitcher at just 17 years old whose heat sits in the mid-90s. And when he steps on the accelerator, can get it up into the upper 90s. I was watching highlights last night, and there was no shortage of 98-mile-an-hour heaters from Caminiti. Braves took him here. Why? Because this was a bit of a fall for Caminiti. He was expected to be one of the bigger pitching prospects in this class. But you take a risk signing a high schooler. You take a risk, not signing, drafting a high schooler. You take a risk drafting a high schooler because there's no guarantee that you will sign the high schooler. There is no guarantee that the high schooler will not go to college, will not spend some time trying to develop himself, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That being said, he is a phenomenal drafting prospect. He is likely 3 or 4 years away from getting onto the bump at Truist. He will need some development, whether it is at the college level or at the minor league level, but it is an interesting pick, and the best I can say is I don't hate it. If a kid's throwing 98-mile-an-hour gas at 17 years of age, there's no telling what the homie is going to be able to do when he gets himself up to 20, 21, 22 years of age. We'll see how it plays out. All right, so there you go. Water cooler cheat sheet. When we come back here in just a minute from right now, I want to talk some college football with you. I've got a couple of takes from Heather Dinich, from Harry Douglas of ESPN that I want to address. Because I listen to these takes and I'm like, all right, but they got a lot of play on social media, and I'm kind of curious as to y'all's reaction. I'll give you mine. Phone lines open. The renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone, 844-326-3663. The text line is open at 71307, 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N, and we'll read them on the air. Rob Brown rolling solo with you this morning. So I need you to jump on board. 71307. Start your text with FAN. We're back after this on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
Make the Fan Upstate a favorite.
Can't wait to hear what's next on Wire to Wire with Cole and Diesel.
Tell me what's coming up. When the Olympics coming up, I asked the question if any country out there could give Steve Kerr and Team USA any trouble.
Just when we thought the Braves were getting back on track, they sputtered in games 3 and 4 against the Diamondbacks. Jake Mastriani of Locked On Braves will try to explain it.
And what to expect this week from SEC Media Days.
Diesel and Cole Bryson really bring it on Wire to Wire.
Turn it on and leave it on.
All right, guys, I've got to do a live read here, so we'll be right back. Y'all stay right there. Yes, getting your own name wrong is a tough startup on a Monday. Welcome to my life for the past few hours. Thank you very much. Stay right there. I'll be right back. right. Thanks for hanging in there, boys and girls. Lovely to have you all as always. Yeah, Steven, it was a bad look. It's a bad look, no doubt about it. We talked about it back in the first hour. I'll bring it back up later, but yeah, real bad look. By the way, y'all got audio? Is the audio good? Is the music coming through and everything? I'm pretty sure I got it right, but who knows? The Rob Brown Show on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate. I am, Rob Brown, which is convenient for the name of the show. Rolling solo today. Hosting, producing, bouncing, editing, answering phone, whatever I need to do. Whatever I need to do, I'm here to do it for you. And you're welcome, by the way. You are, all of you, America as a whole. You're welcome. Hey, let's talk a little bit about Deion Sanders, shall we? I don't know how this ended up being like some sort of major conversation, but it has. And I had a take on it not too long ago that I'll bring back up here. Deion Sanders, so that we're very clear, is a guy that I am pulling for, okay? Guy I'm rooting for. And I'm rooting for Deion Sanders because characters are good for sports. They just are. How many times have I told you? We like sports. Why? We like sports because we like drama. And anybody who says they don't like drama is only saying that so that you fight them on it and they get some drama. We like drama a lot. We're big fans of drama. And because we're big fans of drama, sports is better when it has characters. And I don't care if that character is a character because they're really good at the sport. I don't care if they're a character because they talk, oh, this is a good time to see if I've got my my board working, because they talk a lot of, oh, man. Wait, no, it's not that one. Which one is it? Is it this one? Because they talk a lot of, yay, I did it. Congratulations, me. For whatever reason, their characters, sports are better with characters, and college football is better with characters, right? I will even acknowledge that college football was kind of fun when Urban Meyer was out there being up over and over. It was kind of more fun, right? Deion's a character. He's a great character. Could be a great character. Want him to be a great character. However, I kind of need Deion Sanders to not really play the victim role. All right? Deion Sanders was at Big 12 Media Days, and Deion Sanders got asked to define success for the Colorado Buffaloes in 2024. I want to play you Deion's answer, and it's got a little bit of length to it. It's about a minute and a half. But I want to play it, and then I want to talk about it. Here is the clip from Deion Sanders at Big 12 Media Day.
We're here with Deion Sanders at Big 12 Media Day. You've been very blunt today, Deion. You plan to win this year.
You want me to be different?
Of course not.
Who don't plan on winning? Is any coach that came here don't plan on winning? Like you said it like it was a newsflash. You're darn right I plan on winning.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this then. How do you define success for Colorado football in year two?
Academics. We've tackled that. We're tackling that as well. Character, just those guys outside of the building, making sure they're not doing anything stupid and they're being great young men, great people, assets to the community. We're being dominant on the field. We're doing some wonderful things on the field as well as in the community.
So is it a bowl? Does that define success? Is it a conference championship?
Football-wise, you said football-wise. No, because we're always measured differently. We would never fulfill your thought process. Just say, for instance, we go to a bowl. Well, they should have won 2 more games. They should have been in that bowl, but they gave away that lead. It's always going to be something. We know what success means to us, and we'll keep that in house.
All right. Fair enough. You open on Thursday night against North Dakota State on ESPN. Yeah, tough opening game. You have 43 players from the portal. You have 2 new coordinators. What can we expect opening night, your identity to be on both sides of the ball?
We're going to be truly physical. truly physical, offensively and defensively. We're going to be able to run the football. We know we can throw the heck out of it. We have the number one quarterback in the nation. We can throw the football. We're going to be able to run the football with tremendous physicality, as well as stop the run. Once we stop the run, we're going to become relentless. We have a plethora of athletes that can really go find that football on the offensive side of the ball as receivers, running backs, as well as in defensive secondary and linebackers. We're fast. We have some athletes that can get the job done, some pass rushers that are relentless. We just got to stop that run.
So, a lot of like there at the end. At the end, Deion sounded like a guy that was trying to coach football, which I love. I want more of that. All right. Primarily because when Deion Sanders got to Colorado, Rob Brown had one take. I don't know if he's a good coach. I know he's a good celebrity. I know he's a good influencer. Why? Because I have been #influenced. As I have mentioned, Rob Brown owns multiple pairs of the Deion Sunnies. Multiple pairs. Because I like them and because Deion made them cool. All right? And I don't care if I'm almost 40. If something's cool, something's cool. I'm going to be cool too. Multiple pairs of the Deion Sunnies. Blenders, by the way, if you're curious. So my concern was not whether or not Deion could get the publicity. Deion got the job because of publicity. Deion got the job at Jackson State because of the publicity. He got the job at Colorado because of the publicity. And as I pointed out, when I sat in last week on BetMGM Tonight, which you can hear from 7 to 11 every single week, not right here on the Fan Upstate. When I sat in as a guest host on BetMGM Tonight last night, I was talking with Trista Crick, and I said to Trista, yo, Deion is great. Again, genuinely pulling for Deion Sanders because college football needs characters. Sports needs characters. But I knew that this was more about the character, and I knew it was more about the promotion of Deion Sanders than anything else during week 1 of the college football season last year. During week 1 of the college football season last year, when they went to commercial break, and during that commercial break, and I in retrospect now, I almost wish I'd have went and pulled the audio for it. But during the first of their week 1 game last year, pardon me, they ran a commercial, did the Colorado Buffaloes. They ran a commercial that had the president of the University of Colorado. And he comes on and he looks lovingly into the camera. And he says, here at Colorado, we're a prime institute. We've got prime scenery. We've given you prime education. We've got prime ethics. It was just everything. It was prime. The prime views, prime nightlife, prime this, prime that. Like the president of the university was hawking the university by using Deion Sanders' name and nickname. Like that was the goal. Just using everything prime to add the, and don't get me wrong, use it where you got it, right? Hell yeah, use it where you got it. And so because of that, I went, all right, this is less about truly believing that Deion Sanders is going to be a great coach and more about using the name of Deion Sanders to promote the university, which again, cool, fine. But man, like I will say that I hope Deion gets it together. Because I go back and I listen to the first part of that answer from Deion Sanders. Now, the first part I don't like, the opening bite I don't mind. When the guy's like, define success, and he's like, I want to win. Interviewer for ESPN said, hey, yo, you said you want to win the conference. He's like, yeah, of course I do. Why the hell wouldn't I? Doesn't every coach want to win the conference? And that's fine, right? Like, that's good. That's Deion. That's prime time. I'm all in on that. It was that part in the middle that kind of blew my mind a little bit. He's like, what's your dad? Off the field academics, integrity, making sure our guys are doing the right thing. It's like, yeah, is that why you forced like 31 guys out? And I mean, I guess that, listen, every school's going to lose some guys out for sure, right? Like every school's going to lose some guys out. That's just kind of how it goes. Every team's going to lose some guys out to the portal. That's why the portal is the portal. That's why it's there. But 31 is you forced guys out. 31 is you told guys to leave. 31 is you said, hey, yo, pack your bags. Because I came with my own Louis. Remember, because that was the thing you said last year. I came with my own Louis. And I kind of think he brought that into year 2. So, and this might just be me. Maybe this is just me being a big softy. You know me, I'm a big softy. Maybe this is me being a big softy. But I kind of don't want to hear a coach talking about academics and loyalty and integrity and character and doing the right thing when you ran off half your roster because they just weren't good football players. Call it what it is, coach. Your goal's to win. And for the record, we're all good with that. That we all know. Like I said, I learned that lesson a handful of years ago when Miami fired Randy Shannon. And I know it's been a very long time. Might even be too old to be a reference at this point. But when Miami fired Randy Shannon, a man who had taken Miami and avoided an arrest for like 3 seasons, had the highest graduation rate the school's ever had, and they fired that guy. Why? Because he wasn't winning football games. That's why. No other reason. Because he wasn't winning football games. I don't need to hear about it's about academics and it's about integrity and character and doing. Hey, you ran 31 guys off, coach. You're telling me all 31 of those guys didn't have character and integrity and yada yada yada. I got a hard time believing that. The question for Deion is: can you X's and O's, my guy? Can you X's and O's? Because last year it didn't really look like it. Now you can make some arguments. The offensive line was bad. At the end of the day, building an offensive line is maybe the most difficult thing to do in college football, is to build an offensive line, which is a big problem. But it is your problem. Building an offensive line is tough, but it is, again, your job. You got to do it. And he couldn't last year. So I'm intrigued to see what year 2 looks like for Deion. Because like I said, I am pulling for Deion to succeed. I think college football will be better if Deion succeeds. I think college football will be at its best if Deion succeeds. I'm all in. Like, I want that. I like characters. And I don't care if it's a character that's out there talking a bunch of, or if it's a guy that says it's all about winning.
You're a winner, man. You're the real deal. You're picking up chicks.
Or it's a coach who says after the game,
I'm going to drink a lot of beer tonight, Jim. Budweiser.
I don't care. I just want a character. I want characters. And there's nobody who can be a better character than Deion Sanders. But what I also need is for college football not to dial in on a guy who's going to win 4 games. And I'm betting the under on Colorado football this year. Deion said, we're judged differently. We're looked at differently. Yeah, you are, because you're Deion Sanders, man. Because you're Deion Sanders. That's kind of how it works. You're who you are because of your personality and your character and because of the brashness that you bring to a microphone. But you're also going to be reacted to because of that. So I don't know. I'm intrigued. Does anybody else, let me ask you this way. Does anybody even have any feelings about Deion Sanders? Or is Deion, because they were 4-8 last year, is Deion just kind of like out of the picture until he does something? Because I do kind of feel that way. Like I had this whole segment that I'm playing out. I'm like, I'm going to talk Deion and I'm going to kind of say I'm after him, even though I actually really want him to succeed. I'm going to say how I'm still not a believer that he will. And then the more I set it up and the more I talk about it, the more I go through this, the more I'm like, does anybody really care? Like, is anybody even paying attention to Deion, or is he kind of like a sideshow afterthought at this point? And the more I talk about it, the more I hear myself talk about it, the more I think it might be the latter. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Major League Baseball pausing for the All-Star break. The Midsummer Classic is tomorrow night, 8 Eastern in Arlington, Texas.
All right.
The popular Home Run Derby is tonight. That's an 8 Eastern start time. Mets first baseman Pete Alonso looking to tie Ken Griffey Jr. with his third Home Run Derby title. Hometown favorite in the World Series here.
All right, guys, give me 30 seconds. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Please and thank you.
To win the contest in his home.
All right, we're back, dudes. Thanks for hanging in there. Appreciate you guys.
New singers can come up and get famous, right? That's part of the business. It's part of life.
Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson.
Turn on, leave on. Afternoons 3 to 7 on the Fan, Upstate.
Is arthritic joint pain keeping you from doing the things you love? Bone-on-bone pain in your knees, hips, back, or shoulders? Hey, it's Charlie James. There are exciting new cellular therapies that can get you lasting relief. QC Kinetics is helping patients like you every day. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in advanced regenerative medicine. I'm talking cutting-edge treatments that accelerate your own body's healing properties, revitalizing your joints so you can move again. They've helped so many people here and tens of thousands more around the country. If you're living with chronic pain from arthritis or injury, you need to know steroids and surgery and pain pills are no longer your only options. Learn how QC Kinetics can treat the pain, enhance your joints, restore your mobility, and give you long-term relief with no downtime. This is the future of medicine. Call for a free consultation now. 864-448-3772. That's 864-448-3772 in Greenville and in Asheville. 864-448-3772.
This is a consumer alert to all U.S. taxpayers who owe the IRS back taxes or have unfiled tax returns. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, you can now take advantage of active programs that provide relief to struggling taxpayers and may reduce or eliminate what you owe if you qualify. Even if you are facing liens, levies, audits, wage garnishment, or already in a payment plan, call the Easy Tax Relief Helpline now to check what savings you may qualify for at 800-505-8196. You may qualify to reduce up to 99% of what you owe or for other special programs. Once qualified and enrolled, you can rest assured that your assets are protected and all collection efforts will be stopped. Billions of dollars in savings are available through these relief programs for struggling taxpayers, but you must call to see if you qualify. To see what savings you qualify for, call 800-505-8196. 800-505-8196. That's 800-505-8196.
Ooh, I'm so ready for this weekend away with my girls.
Hey, forget the road. How about some free gas?
Free gas? How?
Try new Febreze car for some serious freshness, and you can win gas for a full year. Visit Febreze.com to learn more.
Say less.
You may not win, but you're gonna have a fresh smelling whip.
Thanks, DJ Fresh. Now how about some music?
Hey, yo, this next one goes out to new Febreze car for giving you a chance to win free gas.
La 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 la.
No purchase necessary. Must be 18 to enter in 73124 for rules and how to enter. Visit Febreze.com.
Sound off on the text line.
At 71307.
Keyword fan.
You're listening to the Rob Brown Show.
My man Steven on the stream said Rob making bank doing his 45th and 46th job titles today. Nah, dude, that's job number one, pal. Job number one is to come in here and put on a radio program in which we strive for mediocrity, my man. Just aiming for average is what we're going for here, and I think we're nailing it. So, we talked a little bit about this back in the last hour of the show. I'd like to get back to it because we are going to get to it again in an hour from now when John Blau of the Post and Courier joins the show. He covers Clemson athletics for the Post and Courier. We'll talk to him a little bit about this story and these rumors, see if he's got any insight on them. I had some feelers out this weekend to some friends and folks down in Tallahassee because I'm going to tell you that the course undertaken by both Clemson and Florida State are going to be remarkably similar to each other. They will be parallel. The only exception, the only difference might be, maybe, possibly might be the landing spot. But the direction that they go, will be very similar. The conversation ongoing, as we have mentioned, is the rumors mill that spun up last week when a radio show host, Greg Swaim, said that he had reports that the Big 12 was working on an invitation to Florida State and Clemson, and that those conversations were indeed going on behind the scenes, that those entities were having talks. Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports, a little bit more respectfully connected, at least more trustworthy with those connections. Dellinger said that on a podcast YouTube channel that, quote, there's been at least early conversation between the Big 12 and those schools. He said that the discussion also brought up and was largely centered around the Big 12's attempt to bring private equity money into the mix, which, quote, would possibly allow FSU and Clemson to pay the hefty fee it would cost to exit the ACC's contracts if it comes to that, end quote. Dellinger went on to say, direct quote, if it comes to adding blue blood football powers that you need, maybe there's a shot, end quote. And so that's what this whole conversation is centered around. Let me be very clear about one thing before anything else. Not only am I comfortable believing, I can't say for certain, but not only am I comfortable believing that there are conversations, or at least has been a conversation between the Big 12 and the two major schools in this discussion, Florida State and Clemson. It would be largely irresponsible of all of those entities for those conversations not to be taking place right now. It would be an irresponsibility, in my ever so humble opinion, if Florida State and Clemson didn't reach out to the Big 12 if they weren't reached out to by the Big 12 in the first place. And there's a handful of reasons for that. Reason number one is demand drives price. Supply and demand drive price. But in this case, demand drives price. From what we are hearing in the rumor mill, the Big Ten has seen their interest in Clemson and Florida State drop. And that is being blamed right now primarily on the lack of AAU accreditation of those two schools. Apparently, the Big Ten only wants to add universities that have that AAU accreditation. Do I think that's dumb on their part? Yes, I do. Does it matter? No, it does not. If that's what they want, that's what they want. If you're FSU and Clemson, the demand has gone down if this is true. If it's true, the demand will have come down. And if that demand has indeed come down, then Florida State and Clemson should be talking to any interested party so that when it is time to genuinely get to the negotiating table, the more people that you can say have had conversations with you, the more the big swingers might be willing to put on the table. If you're the Big 12, you're fighting for your existence right now. The Big Ten getting these two schools, there are, in my ever so humble opinion, there are 3 primary dominoes left to fall. Notre Dame, Clemson, and Florida State. That's it. Those are the 3 remaining dominoes. If those dominoes are still at the table, then it is irresponsible of that entity, of that school, of that conference, not to have the conversation. Because if you're fighting for your existence, getting the biggest possible negotiating chip, and in this case, bank account, on your side is how you guarantee it. Without Clemson and without Florida State, the Big 12, I'm not going to say it's dead. But it's definitely in trouble. I'm not going to say it's dead, but I am going to say it's in a lot of trouble. It's in a lot of trouble because, as we've pointed out, we can all say that it's not true. Scratch that. I appreciate the honesty of most of you. Most of you won't say that it's not true. We all are going to watch the best of the best. This is why the UFL/USFL/XFL/UXSFL can't get off the ground. It can't get off the ground because we're not going to watch a second-rate product. The struggle with U.S. soccer right now is the fact that we're putting out a second-class team and Americans won't watch it. You don't need to look any further than U.S. women's soccer for that. When U.S. women's soccer was out there kicking names and taking ass, it was one of the most watched sports teams in the country. It just was. So you're going to have a hard time if you're the Big 12 getting people to tune in to Colorado versus Utah, right? Well, Utah's not fair. They're going to be pretty good this year. Utah State. Whatever. If you add Clemson and Florida State to the mix and you double their budget because now all of a sudden their conference payout is twice what it is in the ACC, I suspect that unless something goes catastrophically wrong, they'll have their down year just like everybody else does. But they'll be perennial contenders in the landscape of college football. And if they are, now the Big 12's got some leverage to it. Now it's got some ass to it. Now it's got some weight to it, which is what we're looking for. If you don't, what you have in the fold right now isn't good enough to keep people interested. Those schools are going to ultimately start being left even further behind by the Big Ten and the SEC. So if the Big Ten is genuinely saying you don't have AAU accreditation, we don't want you. And if the SEC is sitting there going, we may or may not want you. South Carolina doesn't want Clemson in. Florida doesn't want Florida State in. Makes sense that they don't. But until the litigation stuff is solved, we're not helping you with that, which is what the SEC is saying. We're not helping you with the litigation. We're not helping you with exit fees. We're not helping you with legal fees. We're not helping you with any of that. If you can get out, call me. But if you can't get out, don't call me. Whereas the Big 12 in this spot, the Big 12 can look at these two schools and go, we might can help you out a little bit here. You scratch our back, we'll scratch yours. We might can help you out a little bit here. Maybe if we become the Geico 12, maybe when we become the Geico 12 and we got that Geico money in the back pocket, maybe a chunk of that goes to your legal fees, huh? Maybe a little bit of that goes to paying off them lawyers, and you come play a little football over with us in the Big 12. Maybe you replace Texas and Oklahoma. We see what we can work out, huh? And if you're Clemson and you're Florida State, and you're trying to get out sooner rather than later, and the one thing that's holding you back is hundreds of millions of dollars in exit fees, and the Big 12 comes to you and goes, we get that Geico money, maybe we can cut you a check, huh? Keep it off the books. What do you say? You kind of be irresponsible not to listen to that, right? Because the other option is you hold out, you don't sign anything, you go through this whole process, you end up on the hook for a few $100 million, worst case scenario. And then the SEC goes, we don't want you. We don't want you. And the Big 12 looks and they go, you already told us no, dog. We don't want you. We already told us no, right? Like we've moved on. And now what are you? Now you're floundering. Now you're independent like Notre Dame, but without the NBC TV contract. It would be irresponsible of the Big 12 not to talk to FSU and Clemson. It would be irresponsible of FSU and Clemson not to talk to the Big 12. And because of all of those things, I would not be shocked at all if that conversation has indeed taken place. Let's take a break. We're back out. Why am I playing this again? I got to do that thing that we got to do. I got to tell you guys what's going on in the world. I got to tell you guys what's happening with a sports flash. The Cleveland Guardians selected Oregon State second baseman Travis Bazzana with the first overall selection in last night's Major League Baseball draft. The Aussie batted .407 last year with 28 home runs for Oregon State. The Braves selected left-handed pitcher Cam Caminiti out of Saguaro High School in Arizona. Caminiti is the cousin of former NL MVP Cam Caminiti and is just 17 years old. Spain's Carlos Alcaraz is your 2024 Wimbledon's Gentlemen's Champion after defeating Novak Djokovic 6-2, 6-2, 7-6 in just under 2.5 hours. It's Alcaraz's fourth major title. Caitlin Clark led the Indiana Fever past the Commissioner's Cup champion Minnesota Lynx last night, 81-74. Former Gamecock Aaliyah Boston recorded her 20th career double-double, while Clark recorded 17 points and 6 assists. The Fever now are 11-14 and back in contention for a playoff spot. That's your Sports Flash. Back after this on The Rob Brown Show. Yeah, that was a buzz average. Yes, Keegan, it very is. It very is. It's still important. It still matters. Teams like Atlanta are still building up farm systems. It's not, let me tell you that. It's not that it's meaningless. It's that you won't see results for it from like 3 to 4 years down the road. All right, I'm going to hit the head. I appreciate you guys being here. Stay right there for me. I'll come back here in just a minute. Don't go anywhere. All right, we're back. Thanks for hanging in, everybody. No, I will not play that sounder, mainly because it's on Lonzo's soundboard and I don't have it. I do have mine, though. I do have mine.
When it comes to low prices, Target has your back to school. WORD Spartanburg.
WFBC HD3 Greenville, the official sports voice of the Upstate Fan. Odyssey Sports Station.
Man, check this out.
Your unofficial Rob Brown lockdown.
Represents being real. Yeah.
Unfiltered sports talk. Manufactured locally for the Carolinas.
Lockdown.
This is the Rob Brown Show.
Get Rob.
Only on
The Fan Upstate.
The third hour of the Rob Brown radio program starts now. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Fan Upstate. Happy to have you. As always, I am Rob Brown. The pleasure is mine. Be a part of the radio program. 844-326-3663. 844-FANFONE. The text line is open for you this morning. At 71307, 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-M. We'll read them on the air. 71307 is the number. You can follow me on X at The Rob Brown Show. I've transitioned to just calling it X, by the way. I think we've dropped the formerly known as Twitter. It's been a hot minute. It's just I'm good with it being X now. So you can follow me on X at The Rob Brown Show, at The Rob Brown Show. If you'd like to come at us in that direction, you can also hit us up on Facebook at The Fan Upstate or at The Rob Brown Show. Let's talk some college football. Shall we? Why not? Texas said, Rob, can you explain how FSU and Clemson are good enough academically for the ACC, but not for the Big Ten? So again, a lot of that, just so we're very clear, a lot of this discussion is based around rumor right now, okay? A lot of this discussion is based around rumor. A lot of this discussion is based around speculation. And I think it's fair, to be honest with you. I think it's fair that a lot of this is based around rumor and speculation, because that's sports talk radio. A lot of what we deal with is rumor and speculation. So, with a lot of this being rumor and speculation, and I do think it is important to acknowledge that, the rumor and speculation right now, texter, 71307, start your text with FAN, F-A-N. The rumor and speculation right now is that the Big Ten is uninterested in non-AAU accredited schools. The AAU is the Association of American Universities. There are 71 public and private research universities. These universities have to meet certain standards as upheld by the AAU in education, research, and discovery. That is how they describe it, not me. And the AAU is very proud of the number of institutions they have that are AAU accredited. And the rumor right now is that they don't want non-AAU accredited universities in their mix because you're all poor, dumb people. At least that's how it feels to me. A little dramatic, I know, but I love a little drama, right? I love a little drama. Anyway, that's the speculation right now. That's honestly hard for me to believe. That's legitimately hard for me to believe. I can't imagine. Scratch that. I can imagine that it's true because some people are dumb and dramatic. So, I don't know if it's true or not. but there's a lot of smoke for there to not be a fire. So why, and this is going back, and I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because there's a few more things. I got some sound from Heather Dinich and from Harry Douglas on ESPN that I wanted to get to. Why would the Big Ten say no? I don't know is the answer, Texter. It seems silly to me, especially if they are genuinely, sincerely, honestly wanting to make a push to stay neck and neck with the Southeastern Conference. Adding Clemson and Florida State is a pretty good match for the SEC, adding Texas and Oklahoma, is it not? I know that there are a lot of people nationally that are ready to say, because they made the playoff last year, because they beat Alabama, who also made the playoff last year, that Texas is, one of the best. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot going for Texas. I saw a video not too long ago of a recruiting day at Austin where a bunch of boosters showed up with like Lamborghinis to the lot. Basically a look at the level of cash money we got around this program. Come play your ball here, and the NIL opportunities are endless. Like, okay, I mean, that's within the rules, right? They're allowed to do that. As far as I know, they didn't break any rules. So the Big Ten turning down Florida State and Clemson because they don't have AAU accreditation is kind of silly for the Big Ten. Silly enough to the point that I'm kind of wondering if there's not a more legitimate reason why. And I'm kind of putting it on the same platform as the reason that the SEC is not having any conversation right now. As a reason that the SEC is not involved in conversation with these two schools. That is effectively, y'all figure your own thing out, right? Y'all figure out your own thing. It's on you to figure this thing out. There's a lot of potential litigation at stake here. There's a lot of potential litigation that's got to be dealt with. You've got a lawsuit. You've got two lawsuits for both Clemson and Florida State. You've got two lawsuits, one in each state for both of those schools. And because of those things, there's a lot of potential money at play here that's got to be dealt with. And the SEC is effectively saying at this point, hey, look, you got to fight your way out of this. It's not a no. It's just a not right now. It's not a no. It's just a we're going to let you figure your stuff out because we're not going to pay for your stuff right now. And if that is the case, that's why I think the Big 12 would swoop in this moment in time. Because, as we have said a number of times, they are fighting for their lives right now. They are fighting for their existence right now. And they may, possibly, theoretically, they might be willing to put something on the table for FSU and Clemson that the SEC and the Big Ten are not. The Big Ten would be unwilling to put anything on the table because of the accreditation, but because of the money. And the SEC, I don't think, has made it a secret that they won't put anything on the table because they don't want the money or they don't want to have to give up any money. And they might have to give up a little money to make that happen. So my thought process here is, Texter, to answer your question, I don't necessarily believe the reason the Big Ten is uninterested is because of the money. Is because of the AAU accreditation. I think that's just a way for them to kind of deflect from reality. I think it's kind of a way for them to be able to get through and out of this conversation and potentially the criticism without making the conversation about the money. And I think that's a big part of it, right? I think that's a big part of it. I think right now we're at a very interesting time because when the transfer portal and NIL and TV conversations all come into play, I don't want to say I took a lot of heat, but I did not do that. There was a lot of conversation about comments I made on the show when I said I get very sick and tired of listening to the college football supremacist who come on and say, oh, the reason that I prefer college football to the NFL is because with college football, it's about the pride and the pageantry and the tradition and the love of the game. And with the NFL, these selfish jerks are just in it for the money. And I've said how many times over and over and over again, if you think, genuinely, if you honestly think that it is just about the money, that it's not about the money. If you legitimately think that college football is only run for and by the love of the game, you're going to be very disappointed. I do not, for a second, think that this Big Ten thing is about anything other than the money. But the people in charge, they don't want to admit that. The people in charge don't want to acknowledge that their decision-making process comes down to money. Because they want you, they need you all to believe that it is still pride and pageantry. Because that's what keeps you coming back for more, right? You keep coming back to college football because of the emotion that college football provides to you. Me too. Me too. I'm not putting myself above this. We keep coming back for college football because we love the feelings of college football. We keep coming back to college football because college football gives us those warm fuzzies. We keep coming back to college football because college football makes us feel like there is something special. And you don't want to break that. You know what I compare it to? I've compared this in the past. I'll do it again. You know what I compare it to? I compare it to watching like a Vegas magician, right? I compare it to watching a Vegas magician. Here's what I mean by that. I compare it to going to Vegas and you go in to go watch Penn and Teller or did Siegfried and Roy do magic or did they just get eaten by tigers? Did they do magic? Chat, did they do magic? I can't remember. I think they did magic too, right? Like they had tigers, but also magic? Or did they just have tigers? I don't remember. Somebody enlighten me. Anyway, point here is you go see Penn and Teller or David Copperfield or whatever, whoever your Vegas magician of choice is here. And it is one thing to watch them do a trick, have no idea how to do it, and like have that sense of wonder and intrigue and surprise. It's another thing when you like watch the YouTube video about how it's done, right? Like I enjoy magic. I enjoy magic not because I believe that magic is real. I do not believe magic is real. I enjoy magic because I appreciate the way that the senses can be manipulated into that sense of wonderment, into that sense of magic, for lack of a better word. But once you know how a trick is done and once you know how to look at a trick and see what is actually happening, that sense of wonder, you're still wondered by the fact that a human being has figured out how to take advantage of the senses of other people. But that sense of magic is gone. And that, I think, is a part of the reason, and I know I'm being very dramatic here. I don't care. I think that's part of the reason that this Big Ten wants AAU accreditation conversation is taking place, because it allows you to keep up that masquerade of magic, that feeling of fantastic. It allows you to keep believing the things that those in power structures of college football want you to believe. Oh, it's about the passion and the pride and the pageantry. And again, those things aren't not true. But the decision making about everything that impacts you as a college football fan, from the size of the roster to the size of the playoffs and back and forth, all of those decisions are made based on money, not pride, not pageantry, not tradition, not the show, not your entertainment, not your feelings or emotion as a fan. It is all dictated by the almighty dollar. And so the Big Ten saying, well, we don't want Florida State and Clemson because they're not AAU accredited, allows them to avoid saying, we don't want them because it would throw our budget into chaos. We don't want them because it would create this world where our entire budget is just kind of thrown for a loop. And we don't want to deal with that, right? Like we want to continue to be on the plus side of things. We want to continue to believe that everything is excellent, that money is not the driving factor, that it's about the magic, and it's about the warm fuzzies, the good feelings. I don't think it is. I don't think it is. I think it's about the money. I think the Big Ten wants to look at this. I think the Big Ten is looking at this and saying, if we invite Clemson and Florida State now, then there is the chance that we will have to come off the books for tens of, perhaps hundreds of millions of dollars in order to get through this thing. And I don't think they want to do it. I don't think they want to do it. I know the SEC doesn't want to do it. Like at this point, that's just a for granted, right? They just don't want to do it. So to answer the question of the texter that started this conversation, a conversation I did not intend to go this deep, when he said, how can FSU and Clemson be good enough for the ACC but not the Big Ten academically? I don't believe that is the case if I'm keeping it a buck. I don't believe that's the case. I think at the end of the day, the Big Ten is trying to stay in a spot where they do not have to come off of tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. And this is a way to blanket saying, yeah, it's not worth it for us. It's not worth the money for us. It's not worth the cash for us. I really think that's it. But we'll see. We'll see. All right, when we come back here in just a minute, we'll get into some of this other college football audio and have some reactions to it. That's coming up next. I am Rob Brown, rolling solo today. The Rob Brown Show rolls on. It's the Fan Upstate.
Can't wait to hear what's next on Wire to Wire with Cole and Diesel.
Tell me what's coming up. With the Olympics coming up, I asked the question if any country out there could give Steve Kerr and Team USA any trouble.
Just when we thought the Braves were getting back on track, they sputtered in games 3 and 4 against the Diamondbacks.
That was chaos. That was chaos.
And what to expect this week from SEC Media Days.
Diesel and Cole Bryson really bring it on Wire to Wire.
Turn it on and leave it on.
Afternoons 3 to 7 on the Fan Upstate.
From the News Talk 98.9 WORD Weather Center, here's the Carolinas' most trusted forecast on the Fan Upstate. Few spotty showers and storms possible late today. Blend of clouds and sunshine develops a high around 99. Tonight, slight chance for storms early, partly cloudy, a low of 73. Tuesday, chance for storms late, high of 96. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Fucci on the Fan Upstate. Currently, it's 79.
16th and birdied the final hole for the win.
This is Pat Boyle with BetQL helping you beat the books. I got a future bet for you to take that I love the odds on the Detroit Lions to win their division, the NFC.
30 seconds, guys. Hang in. Hang in there. Be right back. All right, thanks for hanging in there, y'all. Appreciate it. No, it was not reassigned like Milton from Office Space. Lonzo's out today, obviously.
Americans spend 4.4 hours with audio every day. Oh, and you want the proof? Well, you just sat through this ad that's now approaching 30 seconds. What could you say to a potential customer in 30 seconds? Let Odyssey put together a media plan tailor-made for your unique marketing needs. Advertise with Odyssey. Visit ads.odyssey.com.
Today, sunny to partly cloudy, high 96, low 75.
Weather brought to you by Staples. Your local Staples store has hot deals and super low prices on everything for back to school, even technology. Save even more with the Easy Rewards program at Staples.
Sponsored by South Carolina Education Lottery. Did you know that since 2002, more than 2.5 million lottery-funded scholarships, such as Life, Hope, and Palmetto Fellow scholarships, have been awarded to South Carolina students? Playing for fun is a win for education. Visit seeducationlottery.com/educationwins for more information.
Get in the game on the Rob Brown Show.
Only on the Fan.
The Fan.
Upstate's.
The Rob Brown Show carries on. It's the Fan Upstate. John Blau with the Post and Courier coming up in the next segment of the radio program. We'll talk to him about the Clemson stories going on regarding the alleged discussions surrounding Clemson and Florida State, perhaps engaging in those discussions with the Big 12. We'll talk to John Blau about that, but a little bit of sound here from the world of college football. Got a couple of clips to play for you. Let me start with this one. You know what? I'm just going to jump into them. Heather Dinich and Harry Douglas had a couple of conversations over the weekend about college football.
Conference championship races are going to matter even more because, as you mentioned, the 5 highest ranked conference champions are guaranteed a spot in this thing. That means what happened to Florida State last year, an undefeated Power 5 conference champion being excluded, will not happen again. Also, fans are going to get a first-round home game. That is amazing. They're going to love it so much. And finally, it's going to open the door for really good teams who didn't have a chance or a path before or needed a miracle to get one.
Okay, Harry, for you, how will the 12-team college football playoff impact the season?
Well, I would say this, first and foremost, I know a lot of people probably think that college football is going to be different from a competitive standpoint. That's not true. I would tell you to pay attention to college football a lot more. Matt Berry, you understand that as well. But what Heather just mentioned lastly is that now if you have 2 losses or potentially 3 losses, you feel like you have a chance if you get in the dance. To hoist that trophy up and be college football national champions is still in the reach or arm's reach for you in your program. So I think you're going to get the rivalry games. You're going to get the big game matchups. You're going to still have that competitive nature between those 2 teams.
I'll tell you this, teams that were 9-2 going into the last week of the season, you win to go 10-2 now in the 12-team format, your playoff dreams are alive.
So those are the 2 things that Heather Dinich and Harry Douglas are most excited about. I mean, it's respectfully, it's a little underwhelming. Like, yeah, we all know this, right? Yes, I am excited. I'm excited about the 12-team playoff. I'm excited about the expanded playoff. I am excited about the fact that I don't think teams are going to be left out anymore, right? And yes, I think we can all think of some teams in recent memory that we think were left out. I think you all know exactly the first one my head goes to. But I think at the end of the day, we can all think of teams we consider having been left out. And I am excited by the fact that I don't think that's going to happen anymore. I think the fact that in-season competition is still going to matter because there are only 7 at-large spots. And in a weird way, I'm kind of interested in like a 12 seed winning a natty at some point. I know it's unlikely to happen. It's certainly unlikely to happen early in the game, but I'm kind of excited about a 12 team winning a natty. And I'm excited about a 12 team winning a natty, not just for the chaos that will ensue. I'm excited about a 12 seed winning the natty because now all of a sudden there's even more pressure in the regular season. I just do not agree with the sentiment that I have heard expressed quite a bit lately that this is going to somehow diminish the regular season of college football. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true at all. I think if anything, the regular season is as important as it's ever been. In fact, I would even argue that while it may not be quite as important for the teams that are at the top of the mix, I absolutely do think that it is more important for a lot more teams down the line. Because I think there's a lot of teams that are going to be mid-conference caliber teams that in years gone by, their regular season really wouldn't have mattered because they were going to finish at 9-3. They were going to finish it at, maybe 10-2, but they were going to finish in those spots. And they had absolutely no opportunity to make the playoffs, right? Despite being a 10-2 team. Now those teams can get in, but those teams getting in, they still have to make sure they get to that 10-2. So if you're Missouri, A team that for some reason everybody thinks is going to be in the mix this year. I'm not there yet. I'm not sold on it. But if you're a Missouri this year, 10-2 in the SEC might get you in. If you're a team in, let's say, not the Big Ten or the SEC, the two conferences we know get bonus points just by existing. If you're not in those conferences, 10-2 may or may not get you in. 10-2 will not get you in over a 10-2 SEC or Big Ten team. Hell, 9-3 for an SEC or Big Ten team might get you in over a 10-2 Big 12 or ACC squad, right? Like I've said a number of times, it's not that the pressure is off in those spots, in those circumstances. It's just that the pressure is going to be moved down. The pressure is no longer on the sides that are going to be around 4-5. It's going to be down for the teams that are 11-12. And this is why I really hope we have an 11 or a 12 seed win a natty at some point. Unlikely, probably not going to happen, but not impossible. Remember, if a 4 seed wins the basketball tournament, that's a 16 seed winning the basketball tournament. So it's not impossible. It's unlikely, not impossible. And I hope it happens. Because the one thing that I honestly think it doesn't matter, because I think we're going to get to week 10, 11 of this college football season, which starts up in just a tick over a month. I think we're going to get to week 10 or 11 of the college football season, and you're going to immediately go right back to feeling like it matters. The people who think the regular season has diminished emotion, I think you're going to get to week 8, 9, 10, and you're going to go right back to feeling like it matters. Primarily because I think it's going to matter. Again, there may not be quite as much pressure on Georgia, on Ohio State, on Alabama. There might not be quite as much pressure, but there will be pressure. And there will certainly be added pressure on a lot of mid-tier teams. There'll be a lot of added pressure. If you're a Mississippi State, if you're an Ole Miss, let's say Ole Miss. Let's give Lane Kiffin some love. If you're an Ole Miss and it's thought that you're going to check in somewhere 10, 11, 12 in the rankings, well, guess what, my dudes and my dudettes? It matters that you check in 10, 11, 12. If the difference between 11 and 12 and 15 and 16 is a loss to Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl, tell me that game's not incredible. And oh, by the way, flip that over. Even if Mississippi State is not in contention for a playoff spot at that point, do you think a game like that to keep Ole Miss out of it isn't going to feel important? Do you think a game like that, a game in which the Bulldogs might keep the running Rebels out of the mix, isn't going to carry some extra weight? The thing I'm most excited about for the 12-team playoff is everything Heather Dinich and Harry Douglas said there. But it's deeper than that. It's not just that the regular season will have the same importance. It's that it's going to have more importance. Or I should say it's going to have more importance for a lot more teams than it used to. And I think there is something to be said for that. All right, John Blau with the Post and Courier talks a little Clemson athletics when we come back on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, going to step away for just a minute while I get John lined up. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Appreciate you guys. You're all amazing people, and I appreciate you.
what about my old battery? We can recycle it right here at America's #1 battery destination. Restrictions apply.
Jimmy, everybody. Great job. Next up for our 5th grade class recital, we have Samantha.
10 times better performance can make a big difference. Castrol Edge Motor Oil gives your engine 10 times better high-stress performance. Castrol Edge, better oil for maximum performance. Now through December 28th, Castrol Edge and Edge High Mileage Motor Oil are on rollback at Walmart.
Claim based on sequence design test under high-load conditions versus API SP test limits.
Talk to Robin Lonzo. Call 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844.
The Rob Brown Show continues. It's the Fan Upstate. Lonzo out today, so you get me, Rob Brown, on the ones and twos, on the mic, on the phones. I am my own bouncer at this point, holding down the safety and security of the building at large. I mean, what can't I do? Well, what I can do is cover the Clemson Tigers, as well as our next guest. He joins us at this time every Monday morning to talk Clemson Tiger athletics from the Post and Courier. He is John Blau. John, what's up, big fella? How we doing?
I'm good. How are you, Rob?
I'm doing very, very well. Thank you, man. How was I can't imagine with the lawsuits we had last week and your in-depth coverage of that, with the swirling rumors going on right now about conversations between the Big 12 and Clemson. Like, how's life for you right now, bud? Do you need a nap, a Red Bull, some combination of both?
Yeah, probably a nap. I literally drove 9 hours from Pennsylvania to South Carolina to have like a week's worth of vacation, and then ended up right in the courtroom Friday in Pickens County for that. And, obviously, again, MLB draft, and now NFL, college football starting up. We're going to talk to Dabo Sweeney tomorrow and all the assistant coaches. Yeah, it does not stop, and I could use a prolonged nap probably.
No doubt. All right, let's start with the tangibles here. Let's talk about the court cases. The biggest update we've gotten, John, is that North Carolina, the Mecklenburg County judge, has decided that the Clemson request to stay the ACC's lawsuit against them in North Carolina will not be granted, meaning the ACC's case in North Carolina can go forward, as with the Clemson case in Pickens County. I know we've talked a little bit about the differences or lack thereof in these two cases, but what does it mean for Clemson that this case did not get stayed and both of them will be going on simultaneously?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, again, like you said, they all drive towards the same thing, which is getting an interpretation of the contract between the ACC and ESPN and its member schools. And, obviously, maybe Clemson would rather have a judge that's closer to home, that's familiar with them, interpret that contract rather than a judge up in North Carolina. And that obviously would bind all member schools if the North Carolina judge were to make a ruling. I guess the ACC's based there. But really, I mean, the interesting thing to hear the ACC's attorney say in court on Friday was, Clemson's almost hedging their bets here by bringing the South Carolina case. If they can say, well, if the North Carolina judge says, well, we think the interpretation of the contract is that, no, Clemson, your rights are with the ACC. This kind of gives them another outlet in South Carolina that if they get a ruling from the judge there that says, well, actually, the way you worded this contract, I'm not sure if you do own Clemson's rights through 2036. The judge, the lawyer from the ACC was saying, well, they're going to take this and go back to North Carolina and say, well, judge, you're wrong because we have a judge in South Carolina that says you're wrong. So it's kind of, maybe advantageous to Clemson that they have multiple cases going at the same time. It kind of hedges their bets a little bit. It continues to add pressure on the ACC in terms of, they have obviously 4 lawsuits they're dealing with in 3 different states. As far as if there's a disadvantage for Clemson being in North Carolina, you really don't know because a judge you think might rule against you might actually rule with you. So it's all really kind of up in the air. It's just, again, if you think about this in terms of Clemson is just trying to apply leverage for negotiation to eventually settle. I think having those cases going is ultimately, what they want in terms of applying that leverage.
This is dramatically over my head, John Blau. You are way more in and connected than I am. But is there a chance that different decisions are reached in each case? And does Clemson have any sort of contingency plan or preparedness plan if that was to become reality?
Yeah, no, I mean, that is something that I've talked to legal experts about. And it's actually that could make things go for a really long time because obviously you have the initial rulings that could happen in North Carolina and South Carolina. Then you have appellate courts to eventually hear this. If all these different circuits, they come to different decisions, it could eventually get to the U.S. Supreme Court, literally the highest court in the land, to decide what should happen, because there's this thing in the U.S. Constitution called the full faith and credit clause, which is states are supposed to recognize the decisions of other states, and you would have a situation where they aren't. So there isn't really necessarily a contingency plan for the ACC and Clemson in this case. It's just this is what will happen, and it will take a very long time potentially. And so that again comes to the question of, does either side have a pain tolerance where they say after a while, if we're going from now the appellate courts to potentially we're going to have to go to the Supreme Court, do we just settle this because we really don't want to find out what the end result will be, and we don't really want to deal with this any longer? So again, another interesting thing in the Pickens County Court on Friday was that David Dukes, one of the trustees and attorney for Clemson, was saying with the Supreme Court in North Carolina, they sometimes wait a year just even to hear these cases. So they were asking for, we need some immediate relief here, because this could take a really long time if we end up going all the way through this. And so there is kind of an urgency that Clemson at least would like a declaration sooner rather than later to get their freedom, but you never know. It could take a very, very long time.
So obviously the grant of rights that is kind of at the heart of this whole thing, John, is extended all the way till 2036. And my thought has been, if Clemson and Florida State, and then maybe North Carolina, Miami, although I think they're playing it smart by just kind of being quiet and letting FSU and Clemson take the hits. If they went out, any year they can get out is better than waiting until 2036 for that to be the case. So I'm kind of wondering, how would they come about, them or the ACC? How would they come to a decision where they go, this isn't worth the fight anymore? Is it just a matter of the legal fees overcome the exit fee?
That, and then just, I talked to some legal experts who were just kind of observing the case, and they were saying, it's not good for the ACC that your brand becomes synonymous with all of your members are fighting with you. It's just not a great message to have out there as you're trying to project strength, especially during this era of, conference realignment where the Big 12 is trying to make moves and become the third best conference. And obviously the Big 10 and SEC are, lapping the field right now. So, it might just be as simple as a PR problem that you don't want to have indefinitely. That you continue to have all these stories that people like me and other reporters are writing about these lawsuits, and we're talking about it on the radio right now. That is the thing that might eventually apply enough leverage, enough pain that the ACC says, okay, if we can find a way to bring in this school or that school and depart with Clemson and Florida State, at least we survive. At least we don't have these headaches anymore, and that would be worth it. I don't know at the end of the day if it is as simple as that. Maybe the ACC considers it so existential that they will not budge. But I think at some point, if ESPN, if the ACC, if they can all figure out a way to reform this conference in a way that allows Clemson and Florida State to leave, I think that is advantageous for both sides. Just about the ESPN and the ACC and all these other schools kind of figuring out what the best path forward is.
John Blau from the Post and Courier here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Let's flip over, John. I hesitate to even go down this road because it feels like it is largely based in speculation, people guessing, and sometimes people in the media do this, John, as you know, people just outright lying to get attention. But there's been a lot of smoke around. The Big 12 has reached out. There's been some underground conversations between the Big 12 and Clemson and Florida State, and that with the Big Ten allegedly not wanting those schools because of the AAU accreditation, the SEC not wanting those schools because they know it's going to take a lot of money to get them in there. The Big 12 fighting for their lives might be willing to jump in and make something happen here. Have you heard anything about this being a conversation off the grid?
Yeah, not really.
Okay.
Again, it's like I think the latter thing that you said about a lot of people just make stuff up and try to get attention. I mean, I think that's more of what this is at this point. But I mean, I would not be surprised though if I'm just not hearing it, but it is potentially happening. I mean, obviously, again, I do think the Big Ten and the SEC, if you're putting all this effort into, millions of dollars potentially in legal fees, you're trying to get into one of those two conferences. That is the Power Two. That is the future of college football, where you have the mega conferences. You want to be there, but at the same time, if you can't get there, obviously you're not staying in the ACC. The Big 12 is the next best option. Yormark is a very aggressive commissioner. Talk about private equity and naming rights and things like that to try to boost their payouts. Maybe they could do something in the sweet pot for Clemson and Florida State. It's not completely unbelievable. I just don't believe it's that far down the road, especially when, again, Clemson is still tied up in this deal with the ACC in terms of in court, and there's a lot of complications there. And you got to work through the networks. It's really, they're the ones pulling the strings here in terms of whether ESPN is willing to concede, and Fox and CBS, are they willing to come in and help? There's a lot of factors there. I don't know how deep conversations are, if there really have been any conversations, but yeah, I would agree. It's kind of speculation at this point. We'll see where it goes. We got a lot to sort out before it gets there.
I wouldn't disagree with that at all, John Blau. The interesting variable, the factor here that I think I'm looking at from the outside with a great interest in is the concept of the Big 12 looking into private equity, potentially becoming not the Big 12, but the Geico 12 or the Allstate 12 or the Buc-ee's 12 or whatever they become. But if they end up signing some sort of landmark deal and they come forward and say, hey, listen, we're happy to pay your exit fee, right? And I know we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, and it's more likely to happen 6 or 7 years from now than now. But if the Big 12 came and said, we'll pay your exit fee if you'll sign on now, do you think that would push them over the edge, or is that just too much of a hypothetical to even worry about right now?
If they can get you again, pay the exit fee, they could, get the payout to be significantly more than it is in the ACC. And you really do believe in Yormark and kind of what they're building there. Florida State and Clemson could be the replacement for Texas and Oklahoma, kind of in that scenario. I could believe it would happen. But again, it's just, there's so many complications with the lawsuit still ongoing. Would you be accused of tampering if you're the Big 12, if you're coming in and trying to take these guys while they're still in the middle of this litigation and all that? There's a bunch of complicating factors. So it's a plausible scenario. I just don't know all the ins and outs if it could work at this moment in time.
Yeah, don't disagree with that at all. John Blau from the Post and Courier joining us here on the Rob Brown Show, as he does every Monday at 8:40. John, my man, as always, bud, appreciate the time. I know this is kind of a complicated story, but I applaud your efforts to try to stay ingrained in it, because I'm dumb and confused. So good on you for keeping on top of it, pal.
We all are very confused, so don't feel bad about it.
John, we'll talk to you next week, bud. Thank you very much.
All right, that sounds good. Thanks, Rob.
You got it. John Blau from the Post and Courier here on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. I do not envy John, all right? I do not envy John in the least for having to try to stay on top of this story, because I'm going to tell you where I'm at with it right now. Where I'm at with it right now is a whole lot of, okay. It's a whole lot of, hey, Rob, here's a question. What do you think about it?
I don't know. I don't know if I don't quite know how to answer that, to be honest.
Hey, Rob, the judge said this. What do you think about it?
I don't know.
Yeah, I got nothing. I got it. Sorry. I wish I had more. I wish I could help. I wish I had something for you. But I am, again, dumb and not a lawyer. So we're going to keep following this story. But, I mean, at this point, and, I said it to John, and I'll say it again, and I'm not accusing anyone specific. This has happened before where I've been like, oh, I think sometimes people make stuff up to get attention. And it is interesting to me how many people immediately tell on themselves by immediately defending themselves. I had coworkers like this in the past that I have said, I think sometimes some hosts sometimes make things up about big stories in order to get themselves noticed. And I have had people come out of the woodworks and be like, Rob Brown, I can't believe you. I mean, don't tell on yourself. I'm just saying. I'm not saying what has been said is wrong. I'm just saying it might have been wrong, and I'm not comfortable saying it's, not. Argentina adds another trophy to the trophy cabinet after an extra time winner from Lautaro Martinez, who subbed in for an injured Leo Messi in Copa America's final last night. Martinez found a through ball from Giovanni Lo Celso and sent it over the head of Colombian keeper Camilo Vargas for the win. Messi's injury came at the 64th injury and was not contact, but forced him to the bench. Spain are the champions of Europe after defeating England 2-1 in the Euro Cup finals. Nico Williams scored a go-ahead goal early in the contest, but Chelsea star Cole Palmer equalized for the Three Lions. In the 86th minute, Mikel Oyarzabal knocked in the winner to lift the trophy. The Braves enter the All-Star break on a high, taking 2 out of 3 on the road at the Padres. The final contest, the 6-3 game that saw Chris Sale pick up his 13th win of the season. Travis d'Arnaud homered twice and had 4 RBIs in the win. And finally, Caitlin Clark led the Fever past the Commissioner's Cup champion Minnesota Lynx 81-74. Clark recorded 17 and 6, while former Gamecock Aaliyah Boston recorded her 20th career double-double. The Fever now 11-14 and in contention for a playoff spot. That was way long. All right, guys, I'm going to hit the restroom. I'll be right back. All right, y'all, we're back. Thanks for getting in there. Solid, Joe Hendry, solid.
Manufactured locally for the Carolinas. This is the Rob Brown Show. Get Rob. Only on the Fan Upstate.
And the final hour of the Rob Brown Radio Show goes now. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Fan Upstate. Spectacular to have you, my dudes and my dudettes. Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas Fan Phone is open. 844-326-3663. 844-326-3663. You can text us. Our text line is open, 71307, 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N. We will read them on the air. You can tweet me or X me or post me or thread or whatever it's called me at The Rob Brown Show on X, at The Rob Brown Show. Get it, everybody at the Fan Upstate. Lonzo out on vacation this week, so your boy rolling solo for today. Should you wish to be a part of the radio broadcast, I'd love to have you, because if you talk, I don't have to, you know? If you talk, I don't have to.
Personal file. He was giving them the business.
So jump on board. Let's have some fun. All right. Let's get some sound in here. What do we think? Let's go with that. Let's go with this. Can Trevor Lawrence be him? Can he be a dude? Can he win? I have said the answer is yes. But I've also said, in order for that to happen, the Jags got to free him up a little bit. I think a large part of the reason Trevor Lawrence has struggled in Jacksonville, aside from the fact that my man was placed initially into the definition of a toxic workplace, courtesy of one Urban Meyer. I think that a large part of the reason he has struggled is because Jacksonville doesn't free him up, doesn't open him up. Now, I'm not saying my man needs to run into the teeth of a defense. This is a big concern about Jaden Daniels. It's a big concern about running like dual threat quarterbacks, right? Can you be smart enough to know when to run, but more importantly, know how to run? Andy Behrens is a fantasy reporter, analyst, fantasy guy for Yahoo Sports. Now, you guys know that I like to take fantasy outlook, fantasy equations, and utilize them as a guide for creating expectations, creating benchmarks for players. And it's I don't want to say it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I think these two things play off of each other, right? Like fantasy numbers are driven by what a guy's going to do in real life, but the expectations for fantasy are driven by what you think you can do or that player can do in real life. Andy Behrens gave his breakdown on the potential fantasy / real life belief of his capabilities in Trevor Lawrence.
I mean, you wouldn't know it from my fantasy ranks, right? Because I'm not particularly bullish on him. I've got him in the higher teens, I think, like maybe QB 17, 18, something like that. And part of the reason for that is I've kind of resigned myself to the fact that the Jaguars are not going to let him run. He was a great running quarterback at the college level, and in my mind, he is somebody who could definitely have the rushing season that Daniel Jones had a couple years ago. Like, that's very much in play for Trevor Lawrence. He was really good at it. Some of his best collegiate highlights are long touchdown runs. Like he has a gift for it. When he's forced into it, he's still really good at it. But I just don't think it's going to be a major component of his game. I don't think the Jaguars want him doing it, so fine. So I can't consider him a member of the dual threat club. So that lowers him a little bit. Man, people have really trashed him, and including people who came in, a couple of years ago would have told you that they still believed he was a generational quarterback. But like they're just 1 year removed from they won a playoff game. They were an ascending team that won a playoff game. And I can't, the thing that I can't get out of my mind with Trevor Lawrence is all the near misses last year, right? Like all the 1 foot inbound touchdowns, all the college touchdowns. It wasn't just, I don't even think that they ended up having a particularly notable year in terms of total number of drops, but some of the situational drops, like when they happened and what the result of the play would have been had it been caught, were just felt monumental. And so it felt like there were repeated, just big, huge swings in his season where it all could have looked a lot different on paper. It all could have looked a lot different statistically.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much what I said. I think that they need to ultimately free my guy up. Trevor Lawrence becomes dangerous not because of his arm. He's got a good arm. But he becomes dangerous not because of his arm. He becomes dangerous when he can utilize every inch of the football field. He becomes dangerous not as a passer because he's a great passer. He's a very good passer. Not because he's a great passer. He becomes dangerous because when he is able to get to the outside and a first-level defender can't just drop off or commit to jumping up at him, but has to kind of try to play it in the context of the play because Trevor Lawrence is a danger either way, right? What I want to create if I'm Jacksonville is an offense very similar to what Buffalo does with Josh Allen. What I want to create for Trevor Lawrence is the Buffalo option. I want to create an opportunity to utilize Trevor Lawrence as an outside of the pocket passer. I want to utilize a lot of motion. I want to utilize a lot of rollouts, a lot of boots, a lot of naked boots. I want to utilize a lot of different plays that don't just require, but they are designed to get Trevor Lawrence out of the pocket. What I'd like to see, specifically because you have a guy back there in Travis Etienne who understands and gets what Trevor Lawrence is and how he plays and how he rolls. What I want to see is utilize that chemistry, a chemistry that is necessary, a chemistry that is available to work Trevor Lawrence outside of the pocket. I would like to see Trevor Lawrence push to the outside and try to create one-on-one matchups between a receiver and a running back, specifically Etienne. I would like to see Trevor Lawrence running to his right with the football with a or two wide receivers, right? A bottom and a mid-level or a mid and a top-level wide receiver. I'd like to see somebody coming across the middle of the field and somebody going deep to the right. I'd like to see a running back on a little wheel route to the right side with a tight end running over the top, whatever the case might be. I would like to see that utilized for Trevor Lawrence. Because I think if you can create spots where a linebacker or a first-level defensive back has to get to a spot, and then they have to decide, do I go after TL16? Do I force him to throw the ball and just allow Trevor to hit easy, short to mid-length distances? Or do I cover up his receiver option, have Trevor Lawrence run the ball, and then make Trevor Lawrence decide. Make Trevor Lawrence decide what it is that he's going to do. Then I think you create opportunities there. I think Trevor Lawrence has got every tool in the toolkit that he needs for success at the National Football League level. I think he's got every tool in the toolkit that he needs, with the exception of a well-designed offense that frees him up. Because I think if you allow that guy, to start working to the outside and then be a threat, if you allow him to work to the outside and be Josh Allen, I think Jacksonville's got an all-new quarterback on their hands this year. I think he's got an all-new quarterback on his hands this year, does Doug Peterson. And I think he's got a ton of opportunity, not just to be successful, but to be wildly successful. But like I said, I think it is going to take an offense that is not afraid to let Trevor Lawrence to design for Trevor Lawrence to be an absolute stud. And if they can get that going, I think Jacksonville can win the division. I mentioned this a couple of times. I have a ton of respect for CJ Stroud. I have a ton of respect for what the Houston Texans did. I can't tell you how many times I have mentioned the fact that I would run through a wall for DeMeco Ryans. I would run through, if you've watched any of this dude coaching, DeMeco's a dude I think his players will run through a wall for. He doesn't coach my team. I got nothing to do with him. I would run through a wall for DeMeco Ryans. The dude is a dude. He's easy to watch. He's easy to root for. It feels like, pardon me, it feels like he'd be easy to play for. And that matters a lot to me. That matters a lot to me. So because of the fact that I like them, I'm going to keep it a buck. I don't think CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans are overly dramatically better than Jacksonville. I do think they're a little better. But I think Trevor Lawrence ultimately could be the best quarterback in that division, a division with CJ Stroud. I think Trevor Lawrence could be a better quarterback. I think Trevor Lawrence is ultimately being held back by an offensive system that's afraid to let him out of the cage. I think, and I get it. I get it. Trevor Lawrence is a guy you got to keep healthy. You're paying a lot of money. You're paying a lot of money to this dude. You gave him the extension. You gave him the dollar bills. You're giving a lot of money to this cat. You want him safe. You want him healthy. You want him upright. You don't want him on the IL. I get it. But I think at some point, you've got to come to the recognition that in order for Trevor Lawrence to hit that mark, in order for Trevor Lawrence to be that guy, you have got to let him be Trevor Lawrence. In order for him to be that guy, you've got to allow him to utilize that. The reason you took him out of Clemson was because the utilization of every aspect of his game made him that attractive to you. And if you're not going to let him utilize every aspect of the game, then the reason you drafted him was a bad one, was a dumb one. And I think that's a big problem. All right, so some thoughts on TL16 as we get ever closer to the beginning of the NFL season. Not terribly long away. Let's take a break. We'll come back. I got a few more thoughts I want to give. Talk a little NASCAR on the flip side. It's the Rob Brown Show. It's the Fan Upstate.
FM, 1330 AM, Greenville, 97.1 FM, 950 AM, Spartanburg.
How we feeling, chat? Y'all good?
There's a whole lot more to know about sound if you really want to go into the subject.
Your smart speaker. Just say play 97 The Fan Upstate. On your HD radio at WFBC HD3. There's just one more thing. And on your computer at
thefanupstate.com. From the News Talk 98.9 WORD Weather Center, here's the Carolinas' most trusted forecast on the Fan Upstate. Few spotty showers and storms possible late today. Blended clouds and sunshine develops a high around 99. Tonight, slight chance for storms early, partly cloudy, low 73. Tuesday, chance for storms late, high 96. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Vucci on the Fan Upstate. Currently, it's 82.
And now, the Daily Sports Spin, powered by Ingles. Low prices, love the savings.
Wins on Sunday, sales on Monday. That was the old adage in the 1950s for NASCAR. When a Plymouth won at Daytona, you better believe racing fans would flock to the dealerships to buy the car that won big. NASCAR was R&D for auto manufacturers, and maybe the same could be true again. Last week in Chicago, NASCAR unveiled its new EV car in collaboration with ABB. Now, I know many of you have mixed feelings about electric cars, but what if NASCAR, a sport you love, is spearheading innovation? Imagine if an electric car was capable of running NASCAR speeds for 300, 400, 500 miles, what a passenger car could do. NASCAR looking to the future would actually be reclaiming its roots. What do you think? I'm Diesel.
Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson.
This afternoon, 3 to 7 on the Fan Upstate. 97.7 FM Greenville, 97.1 FM Spartanburg, and Omaha, Seattle.
Ingles Markets is a proud sponsor of the Wire to Wire Sports Spin. From the playing field to the stands to your own living room, Ingles Markets has everything you need to fuel your athlete or satisfy all the hungry fans in your life. Ingles, low prices, love the savings.
The light is fading, your hands are sore, and the last tool has been put away. Now
I thought, like I said, your hands are sore. It's a very interesting way to put that.
Something about the job feels a little different. Your wallet. Because we believe that everyone deserves hardworking tools at hardworking prices. And that's what we have here. So, whatever you do, do it for less at Harbor Freight.
If you're looking to get a new car, you could really cut expenses by bundling your car and renter's insurance with Progressive. Sure, you love your old car, but you know it's not normal to give instructions on how to open the window. It should be self-explanatory, but it's not. And notice how when you're in other people's cars, you can feel cushion in the seats? That's pretty nice, right? No, it's just normal. So bundle your renters and cars.
David, Rob Brown from the Fan Upstate. How do you do, sir? I'm doing very well, man. I appreciate you asking. I just saw your DM. I apologize for taking so long to get to you if you're still good to chat. Beautiful. I love it, man. All right, we are coming back from break in about 2 minutes. If you'll hang on, I'll get you up and running, man. Perfect. Thank you. Hang on, partner. Well, that's how I set up an interview. You heard that. Steven, I stayed up till halftime. I watched Shakira and I went to bed.
Tune your business's frequency to success and turn shipping to your advantage. Learn how at USPS.com/advantage. USPS Ground Advantage. Simple, affordable, reliable.
Downy Rinse and Refresh. Break up with stinky clothes.
Every now and then I get a little bit tired of the things that just will never come out. Every now and then I rinse it out. One wash and it delivers. One wash, it smells so clean. Downy Rinse and Refresh, it's a dream.
Downy Rinse and Refresh removes 100% of odor in just one wash. Guaranteed.
Do you owe back taxes or have unfiled tax returns? The IRS won't quit until they get your money. Here's great news, fresh from those in the know.
Major changes have happened at the IRS. If you owe more than $10,000, you may be eligible for a 99% reduction of what you owe. Haven't filed a return for a while? Their happy clients are talking.
The IRS was going to levy my bank account, but Guardian was able to prevent that and fix all my IRS issues. Thanks again, Guardian Tax.
Need relief from crushing tax debt? The IRS now has special programs. Guardian Tax knows all about them. Personal or business, this is the fresh new brick you've been hoping for.
We aren't the company you call when you need a hug because you're scared of the IRS. Guardian Tax is the company that wins when you need it most.
Guardian Tax Service is really great to work with. They really help me out. I'd recommend them highly.
Call now for a free confidential consultation. 800-505-1608. 800-505-1608. 800-505-1608.
No need to check the clock. It's Rob Brown time. Now, weekday mornings from 6 to 10 on the Fan.
The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. 97.7 FM Greenville, 97.1 FM Spartanburg, all around the world on the Odyssey app, AUDACY. Put it on all your digital devices and don't miss a minute of our around-the-clock programming here on the Fan Upstate. Told you earlier, we were reaching out. We were going to try to make it happen, and I'm going to tell you straight up, I've never gotten a better yes to an interview than my kids aren't wild right now if you've got time. David Hood is a senior writer for TigerNet.com. He is a Heisman voter. He is a member of the CFB Writers Association. And least impressively of all those things, he is the next guest here on the Rob Brown Show. David, how we doing, bud?
Well, like I said, the kids are quiet right now, so I'm great. I'm gold.
And you decided to take time to talk to me instead of taking a nap, you brave, brave man.
Well, it's always fun to talk sports.
I love that. Can't go wrong with that. My man, listen, I reached out, and I'm glad I did, because we have got Twitter on fire right now about the Clemson to the Big 12 rumors that were started by a radio show host named Greg Swaim a couple of days ago. You responded on your Twitter thread the other day saying those tweets are wild, that you've got sources at Clemson who assure those claims by Swaim are, quote, way off base, end quote. I want to get into the specifics, but before I do, I'll just give you the open mic. Can you kind of tell me what the breakdown from your perspective on the situation is?
Yeah, it's really funny that as soon as the first report came out from Swaim, I get a text from somebody over at Clemson that would know, and it's like, hey, that's just the Big 12 trying to stir the pot. Nothing to it. And I go, okay, so I'm just going to keep quiet, and then the uproar gets a little bit louder, and then gets a little bit louder, and Greg Swaim comes out and has that, and everybody gets a little bit crazy. And it's funny. It just sounds like people out there are trying to make something out of nothing to make Big 12 media days fun. And then, I reached out to somebody else at Clemson, and I said, hey, obviously there's a lot of chatter. I don't think you would even qualify that as smoke right now. And it was like, can't even begin to tell you how off base this all is. And, I think that there are bigger fish to fry for Clemson, for Florida State. I think there's bigger fish to fry for the conferences, because I think we're, all trying to move toward that super conference model. And maybe people are probably not looking at the big picture enough. And then my Twitter DMs started to go off late Saturday night, and it's like, hey, you're absolutely right. Nothing going on at Florida State from people in the know down there that run certain organizations. It just sounds like it was just somebody gets a wild hair and decided to have a little bit of fun in the summertime.
Yeah, it's. I was talking to another Clemson reporter earlier in the show, and I said, there's an unfortunate reality in this industry, in my opinion, David, that sometimes people say funny things into a microphone for the exact intent and purpose of getting noticed, of getting attention, because clicks matter more than quality in 2024. the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, okay, in a weird way, it makes sense, right? If you're the Big 12, you're fighting for survival. Clemson and Florida State are two of the largest remaining crown jewels out there. It makes a ton of sense. But also for it to just randomly come out like the day that their media day started, the timing just kind of felt off on this whole thing. So I've been kicking it back and forth. Basically what you're saying is, as of right now, at least from what we've been able to, because I've talked to friends of mine, I used to cover Florida State down in Florida, not hearing any smoke down there as well, is that it's not that the rumor doesn't make sense. It's just that it's not happening right now.
Yeah, it's just not happening right now. And people tend to forget this really big thing that's happening out there, in that Clemson and Florida State really can't accept an invite to the Big 12. Even if the Big 12 commissioner was to show up on Jim Clements, the president of Clemson University, and Graham Neff's doorstep today with a pretty little box and a bow on it and say, hey, guys, here's our housewarming gift. We want you in the Big 12. There's this little thing called the Grant of Rights that Clemson and Florida State are trying to get out of. And really, it would make no sense for the Big 12 to add them or for them to jump when all of the profits and all of the money would go back to the ACC until this gets settled.
So we had a suggestion, a thought, a text from a listener earlier, David, that said something to the tune of, what if the Big 12's offer was, we pay your exit fee? Everything else is normal, right? You're still getting your annual payout from the Big 12. You're still getting that. But the whole court case, or at least a part of the court case, is ongoing between Clemson and the ACC. Is the ACC maintaining that even if you leave, we still own your broadcast rights? So that even that doesn't necessarily solve anything.
No, because then, whatever that media rights fee per year, whatever it is, in the ACC, it's $49 million. Let's just say in the Big 12, it would be $60 million. Well, that would go to the ACC until this gets settled. So, look, I had somebody ask me about Maryland. Remember, Maryland left the ACC back in 2013. And I think I'm right on this, but the original amount was just an exit fee. That's all that they owed. And it was, I believe, $52 million. Oh, my goodness. Graham Neff would write a check for double that, maybe even triple that today if he could get out of the ACC. And, the two sides eventually mediated, and they settled for, I do believe it was $31 million, which just, look, $31 million is a lot of money, but with the numbers being thrown around today, that's small. That's chump change, right? And, the ACC decided, we can't lose any more teams. And so that's what led to this, grant of rights and trying to lock teams in and making sure that they don't leave. And until this is settled, and, I think Clemson feels like they've got a really good shot. I think Florida State does. And maybe this all comes to a head at some point, and the ACC quits fighting and says, let's go negotiate a buyout or maybe a percentage of your media rights fees for 5 years. Who knows what it will be, but that's got to get settled first.
We are talking with David Hood. He covers Clemson for TigerNet.com here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. I was digging through, and the interesting thing about this to me, David, is like, the Big 12 fans started losing their minds, right? Like the Big 12 fans were like, yeah, but hear us out, Clemson. Like, hear us out. You'd fit in. You'd be the marquee program. You'd get everything, and you'd make twice as much as the ACC. So my thought would be, if this did trigger something within Clemson's front office, whether it was Graham Neff or Dabo Swinney or whoever that went in and said, maybe we should look at this, is it just a matter of the technical aspects, the legal aspects of it? It just doesn't matter. It's years down the road. Like, I guess the easier way to say it is, do the court cases have to be cleared up before this even matters?
I think they do. I really do. Until you figure out who's going to be making the money off of this. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't back, channel conversations going on. I think Fox Sports is pulling strings. I think ESPN is pulling strings, back channels trying to get things done. The lawsuit is not a good look for ESPN that Clemson has right now. Has Clemson talked to the Big Ten? I would say probably yes. Has Clemson talked to the SEC? I would say probably yes. But, is it to the point of an invite, or the Big 12 thinking about adding them, or, No, just not there yet. This really needs to be figured out from a legal perspective. And then I keep, kind of pointing to a February 1 date next year, which is where ESPN on February 1st has, what they call a look-in, what people around Clemson may call an opt-out. But ESPN can redo the ACC media rights deal. And they can either increase it because of the teams that have been added. They can say, you know what, teams you added bring no value. We're going to keep it the same. Or they can say, man, we're losing money. Let's lower it. And at that point, February 1, if ESPN changes the contract, then that may give Clemson, Florida State, and whoever else maybe, a chance to go, you know what, now the contract's been changed, we're leaving.
We are talking with David Hood, who covers Clemson for TigerNet.com. David, a minute or two more, and then we'll let you get back to your kids who are, by the way, congratulations, because they sound like they're being excellent right now. That's fantastic fathering.
Well, they haven't killed each other, so that's okay. They're 3- and 5-year-old boys. I mean, it is what it is.
My man, you keep the bar on the floor as long as you can keep the bar on the floor. You know what I mean? As far as the lawsuit stuff goes, and obviously this is kind of the biggest story because I agree with you. I think everything else kind of hinges on this right now. As far as the lawsuit goes, the biggest thing I'm interested in is the fact that the stay was not issued against the court case in North Carolina, meaning Clemson's going to be dealing with, at least right now, it looks like, dueling lawsuits, one in South Carolina, one in North Carolina. What impact does that have, if any, on Clemson's approach to these lawsuits? Or is it just a matter of a bunch of lawyers who are about to start making a lot more money?
Yeah, I think Clemson's approach in both cases is the same now. The one in North Carolina has been appealed, so it's going to the appellate court. We do not have a time frame on that. In fact, one thing that the Clemson lawyers brought up Friday when we were in court in Pickens County was, that could be a year, it could be 2 years from now before it's heard on appeal. And certainly everybody wants it to happen before then. But I think the approach is the same. Let's just try and find a loophole in the grant of rights and, see what happens there. But, for Clemson, having it in Pickens County, I think that's huge. I think kind of having a little bit of a home court advantage. As Grayson Mann, who works for us, I think he wrote that, Saturday or Sunday. Having a home court advantage is big. And, I think what will happen eventually, though, because Florida State's taking the ACC to court, there will be a suit in Leon County. There will be a suit in North Carolina. Clemson's taking them to court, suit in Pickens County, suit in North Carolina. At some point, the ACC just come to the negotiating table. And maybe that's what every side wants. Maybe they just want to come and, sit down and let's hammer this out.
Interesting. David Hood from TigerNet.com joining us here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. David, my man, I appreciate the late notice. I appreciate you coming on. And if you don't mind, I'd love to do it again sooner rather than later, partner.
All right, let's do it.
Done. Love it. Thank you very much. And by the way, I don't know if they can hear me, but the kids deserve ice cream.
Well, we'll make sure something happens.
I like it. I respect it. David, thank you very much, buddy. Let's do it again soon, pal. There you go. David Hood from TigerNet.com. He is also a Heisman voter and a member of the CFB Writers Association, joining us here on the Rob Brown Show with the Fan Upstate. Greatly appreciate his time putting his kids on hold for a minute. I respect that. My man deserves some respect for that. He's like, hey, don't kill each other. Dad's got to do an interview. And and from what I understand, from what I heard in the Brett, it did not sound like there was any child-on-child violence. So good on David Hood. That just means that's some good parenting. All right. Thank you very much to David Hood. We got to run to a break. We'll come back here in just a minute. Got a few more things I want to get to, including I was going to talk NASCAR there, but David Hood gets priority, right? David Hood, of course, gets priority. When we come back, something happened in the NASCAR race yesterday. Something happened on the NASCAR race yesterday that involved a longtime friend of the show. Something happened on the NASCAR race yesterday that lets me think that a longtime friend of the show is about to become a character, and I like it. We're back after this on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Yes, James, both Diesel and I will be at the Panther Fan Fest event that day. In fact, I believe we're going to be doing a live show that day. I will let you know that. I believe we are having a conversation about the schematics behind that in the next day or two, and we will be able to give you some more information on that. So stay tuned.
Over 5 innings. Travis d'Arnaud hit a pair of homers and drove in 4 runs. Atlanta's won 6 of 9 and took 2 of 3 from San Diego. The Braves head into the All-Star break second in the NL East, 8.5 games behind the Major League leading Philadelphia Phillies. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. Download the Odyssey app, search the Fan Upstate, and listen anywhere on your phone. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash of the Fan Upstate.
From the Ingles Market Studio.
Tigers, Gamecocks, Panthers, Paladins, and Rebels. Punch your ticket to the best local sports. 97.7 FM Greenville, 97.1 FM Spartanburg. Always streaming wherever you are on the Odyssey app.
State.
Have you been wanting to find the secret to losing weight and getting healthy the natural way without drugs or injections? Hi, this is Dr. Elliot Hirschstrom with New Life Weight Loss, and we know the secret to losing a half a pound to a pound of fat every day, naturally, safely, and effectively, without counting points or calories, no exercising, no prepackaged meals, no drugs, no surgery. Go to mynewlifeweightloss.com now.
Hey, it's Rob Brown. I went back home to Florida last weekend to spend time with friends and family. I haven't seen in a while, and I cannot tell you how nice it felt, thanks to my friends at New Life, to be down all this weight and have people telling me how good I look, to be wearing vacation clothes and feel like I looked good on vacation. It works.
Many patients lose 20 to 30 pounds in about a month or two. That's up to a pound per day. For your free consultation, call 864-719-2550 or go to mynewlifeweightloss.com. Our expert team will discuss your health goals, help determine the root causes of your weight issues, and put you on a path to success. Go to mynewlifeweightloss.com now.
Wire to wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Turn on, leave on.
If you do not know, if you have not heard, this is the 5 o'clock fight. Diesel and I have to disagree on 3 topics. I like this one. You put this one on the rundown, and I cannot wait to tell you you're wrong. Gas station food. Eat it or leave it. Leave it all behind. I don't eat that stuff. It's not good food. Diesel. I don't care what you say. It's probably been sitting there for hours. It always gives you the ball. I try to stay away from it.
ACC. I can't wait to see Cole's first interaction with ACC Karen. It's going to be absolutely spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. All right, give me 30 seconds. I'll be right back, guys. Stay right there for me, please. And thank you. You're all amazing, by the way. I love you. You're beautiful. All right, we're back, y'all. Thanks for hanging in there. I genuinely appreciate those of y'all that are hanging out with us today.
Call quickgranger.com or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
Text us at 71307. Keyword fan. This is the Rob Brown Show with Lund.
The Rob Brown Show continues. It's the Fan Upstate. Thanks for being here, ladies and gentlemen. You're all spectacular people. We appreciate it greatly. 844-326-3663. That is the number to the Renewal by Anderson at the Carolinas fan phone, 844-326-3663. You may text us, 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, and we will read them on the air. All right, let's get a couple more things in here. You guys know I'm a big Corey LaJoy guy. All right, why? Multiple reasons. Number one, friend of the show. Number two, driving for Spire, which we have a connection with. Number three, longtime friend of the show. Corey's been on the show once a year, every year for the past 4 years running. Now he's come on the show. Big fan, and he's just a cool dude, man. He's just a cool dude. He's the guy. I don't have the clip. It's on Lonzo's thing, but he's the guy that dropped the, "Hey, Big Daddy, how you doing?" That's still a big part of the show. Big fan. All right, big fan. Anyway, yesterday the boys in NASCAR spun a few circles, or I guess technically in this case triangles, at Pocono. One of my favorite courses on the circuit. It's one of my favorite courses because it is such a unique course. There's banking. There's a flat turn. There's a long straightaway. There's a short straightaway. I love this track. It is one of the most unique tracks on the circuit, and it demands versatility out of its driver. Well, towards the end of the afternoon at Pocono, Corey LaJoy was driving out of a restart. And he got into a bit of entanglement with one Kyle Busch. Now, I'm a Kyle Busch guy, too, as I've said many times on the show, primarily because of how much Kyle Busch aggravates people. I'm a big fan of that. Kyle Busch got into it with my dog, Corey LaJoy. So on the restart, Corey LaJoy was one spot behind Kyle Busch. They were driving down into turn number 1 off the restart. Corey LaJoy went low. Kyle Busch went low, put a block on Corey LaJoy. LaJoy slid back up the track. Kyle Busch slid back up the track as well. Then just before they got into turn number 1, Corey LaJoy went to take the bottom line a second time. Kyle Busch threw a block. However, Kyle Busch ran out of room because they were about to get down to the yellow line, which would have signified being down on the apron, would have presented a problem. So Kyle Busch tried to slide back up the racetrack, but unfortunately for him, by that point, Corey LaJoy had already put the front left quarter panel underneath the back right quarter panel of Kyle Busch. And it was dangerous. Kyle Busch gets spun up into the pack. The pack ends up knocking him around all over the track. It was just not a great look. Not a great look. Bit of an accident. Happens. Well, after the race was over, Corey LaJoy went up, was doing a little post-race interview action, and of course, he got asked what happened, how it happened, and if there was anything else he wanted to say. And this was Corey's answer.
Restarts are so crazy there. If you have any sort of momentum, you got to take it, and you got to go to the bottom to just kind of stake your ground. And I got a big push from the 16, and it was like 4 wide, and I went to the left rear of the 8, and he blocked it once, and I kind of stayed straight. I was anticipating kind of our bumpers lining up and then, kind of pushing him forward and maybe him taking the lane, but he blocked again when I had a little bit more position on him and spun him out. I hate it. It took out him and some other guys, but that's just that's what you have to do. You have to take momentum when you have it, because if you don't, the guy behind you is going to put you in a worse spot than you're going to put the guy in front of you. So that's just how the racing is. You have to be super aggressive on restarts, and sometimes you're the windshield and sometimes you're the bug.
Do you have anything to say to Kyle?
I think Kyle and I have been racing around each other long enough. We're not going to smash into each other on purpose. We both are guys that feel like we belong, certainly him. But, I'm not going to say sorry. I'm not sorry about it because that was the thing. And if the shoe was on the other foot, the exact same thing would have happened. And I think he would probably say that. So you can listen to Second Pennies this week and you can hear more about it.
Okay, couple of things here. Number one, love the front half of the answer. Felt genuine, felt legitimate, felt genuine and legitimate. I liked it a lot, okay? I liked it a lot. I like the fact that he pointed out that restarts are crazy. They are. They're chaos. That's why we love them. I like the fact that he actually explained what happened on the track. It matters. I appreciated that. I like that he went on to say, look, I think if you ask us both, we both, especially him, gave him a little respect there. We both belong out here. Again, also accurate, also correct, also true. I also love the fact that he said, I'm not going to apologize for that because he should not. Listen, I love Kyle Busch, and part of the reason I love Kyle Busch is because Kyle Busch is not afraid to be aggressive. He's not afraid to knock people around a little bit, not afraid to bump and run when he needs to, all right? And if he ends up bumping and running when he needs to and putting a guy into the wall to protect himself, so be it. So be it. I like it. I think NASCAR, we talked about Deion Sanders earlier in the show. I think NASCAR needs characters. It needs good guys and it needs bad guys. The reason good guys in wrestling are good is because they have bad guys in wrestling. Everything is wrestling. The reason the good guys are the good guys is because the bad guys are the bad guys, and you got to have one to have the other. If there weren't good guys and bad guys, there would just be a bunch of guys. And sometimes it's entertaining, but we love a good story of a bad guy getting beat by the good guy. We love a drama of the good guy getting beat by the bad guy. NASCAR needs both. NASCAR needs both. And here's my fun thing here. There's no good guy and there's no bad guy in the scenario. There's just two guys. Now, Kyle Busch is going to look like the bad guy because Kyle Busch has kind of been the bad boy of racing for a very long time. He's kind of got that legacy of being the bad boy of wrestling for a very long time. Or, excuse me, of racing. Why not both? ¿Por qué no los dos? He's kind of got that reputation. Where's Corey LaJoie? Been driving on the circuit for a while now, but let's be real, still kind of the new guy to the biggest scene, right? So, I'm looking at a spot here where Kyle Busch got aggressive, where Kyle Busch tried to stop the run of Corey LaJoie, a run that was threatening his finishing position, tried to stop that run. It cost him the race, and it cost about 3 other drivers the race as well. It cost about 3 other drivers the race. And there's going to be some that are mad at Corey, and they're going to say you were too aggressive. You knew he was blocking. You also knew he was out of room. You should have held back. You should have let him slip back up the track. You should have fought him on the backstretch. You should have fought him coming out of turn 2 and onto the long straightaway. You should have fought him at that spot and not fought him going into the corner where you put everybody else in danger. Even as a Kyle Busch guy, I would make the argument that ain't true. Even as a Kyle Busch guy, I would make the argument, Kyle's got to recognize he's out of room to throw that block, right? Corey got you beat. Stay down. Let him drive by you. You come back up. That's as a Kyle Busch fan, but also as a Corey LaJoie fan. You let him drive by you. You let him slide ahead of you. You pull up the track into traffic. And if you get railroaded, you get railroaded. It's better to get railroaded and have to fight your way back from the back again instead of finding your car smashed up in the wall and yourself in the ambulance on the way to the medical tent. Hey, you don't want that either, right? Here's all I care about. All I care about is I got a rivalry to watch next weekend. I've got a rivalry to watch next weekend. Now, anytime that these guys get linked up, we're in a real interesting spot now. Anytime these guys get locked up, I have to watch. So next Sunday, when the fellas run the Brickyard at Indy, if I see the 8 and the 77 linked up in any way, shape, and form, it's now must-watch TV. In 2 weeks, when they run the 400 at Richmond on the short track, if those two cars are near each other, I got to watch them. There's no missing that at that point. There's no way to miss that. So with all of those things being said, this is what sports needs, man. This is what sports needs. Sports needs characters. This is what I said about Dion earlier. This is why I'm pulling for Dion, because half the people love him and want him to be the guy, and half the guys hate him and want him to fail. I like this because neither one of them's wrong. Kyle's not wrong for fighting for his spot. Corey's not wrong for saying that wasn't his spot and I'm not going to apologize. Neither one of them is wrong. And that's what NASCAR has been missing, in my ever so humble yet frequently correct opinion. NASCAR needs some fights. Maybe some fist fights, but it needs some fights. It needs a rivalry. It needs some dudes who get after it. And now I got two guys that I am leaning on getting after it. And I'm here for it. I'm glad it's Corey LaJoie. I'm glad it's my guy. The best thing in the game for me, while Kyle Busch has become a guy who can get close but no cigar in every race on the circuit, since my guy can't win anymore, now that friend of the show, Corey LaJoie, is on the verge of becoming a dude. Now that friend of the show, Corey LaJoie, is well on his way to being a notorious driver. And now that he's got a rival, now that he's got somebody, and again, Kyle Busch may look and go, yep, that was on me. That's my bad. That's fine. It doesn't mean it's me. It doesn't mean they're not going to be bumping and running on the course moving forward, right? Now that I've got two dudes who are going to get after it, it's kind of must-watch CTV for me. Must-watch CTV. Must-watch TV. Must-see TV. Watch the damn race, all right? The Brickyard's going to be heated. Watch the race. All right. That's it for me. Y'all have a lovely rest of your day. Thanks for being here. I think Brandon's back tomorrow. I don't know. We'll find out. Either way, I will be one way or the other. My name is Rob Brown. You're all spectacular people. Have a great rest of your Monday. Don't drink and drive. I will punch you in the face. We'll see you back here tomorrow to do it all over again, but better on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Bang. We did it, everybody. Congratulations. We nailed it. All right. I'm going to hop off because I'm a one-man band, and I have a lot of stuff to do, unfortunately. So I'm going to tell you all goodbye. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all back here tomorrow. Thanks for being here. Hasta luego.